What's going on? You are listening to ThisWeekInGeek.net. I'm your host, Mike the Birdman, and hey, happy 16 years to us. Though it's technically a week late, that's okay. We can blame it on being sick as hell. Though I'm feeling a little under the weather today, but I'm not alone as we decide to go through this wonderful, exciting trek through bizarrely sub-zero temperatures. I'm joined with
Alex, the producer, who is no longer sick. He was sick in December, and I had a little insomnia last week with some changes slightly to the medications that I'm on. But sickness is going around.
Yeah, right now, my wife has been sick for the better part of 2 weeks. It's not COVID because she's tested for it constantly. Although I volunteer down at a local food bank, and one of my volunteers was at an event, and some of the people they were there tested positive, but they were not testing positive. I'm starting to feel a little bit weird, but I feel better than I did last night. I feel just really tired today, but I'm doing more or less okay. It's probably just me working myself to the bone, which is it's weird.
It could be, another strain of something. Like my mom got COVID in the last week and a half, and it was the first time she got it. And she's a senior. She had 4 shots plus the bivalent, and it hit her pretty hard. Not like hard enough that she had to leave her home, but it was like a full blown regular flu. Exasperated by the fact that she has to take care of, her mother, like my grandmother, who is needing a lot more help with having cognitive decline. So, she's also dealing with that, and then worried now about whether or not, she passed it on. So now we're in the waiting game of testing my grandmother a bunch of times to find out. My mom is now testing COVID free, but that coincided and overlapped with when my birthday was, which was Groundhog Day. Like 4 days or 5 days before my birthday, I got a call from my mom saying, "You can't come over. Your birthday is postponed." All of my family was going to go over to her place to celebrate because my grandmother doesn't travel much anymore because it's more difficult for her. So we're like, we'll relocate to her. And she's like, "Can't come over. I got COVID. God damn it." And I went, "Are you fine, Mom? I don't care when my birthday is, as long as we actually do something together." And she's like, you just want cake and food. And I'm like, yes, of course. But but your health is important. So, that happened. That had to change some things around. So my brother ended up coming over just to my place. And we're going to do the family gathering in a few weeks probably. But my father ended up making ribs and Caesar salad for dinner. We ended up watching, what was it? We watched just some stand-up specials on Netflix and chilled and talked. It was just pretty low-key, but that was pretty good overall. And it was, coinciding with me doing more streaming. So we did a birthday stream, which was fun. Played, what was that game? It was the Shakespeare game. I want to get the name right.
Shakespeare, I don't know, Shakespeare, Sailor Moon. It actually was kind of cool looking, actually.
This way Madness Lies, which is obviously a line from one of his plays, and it's made by Z Boyd Games, which is that I think 2 or 3 person team that made Cthulhu Saves Christmas and Cthulhu Saves the World. What was the other one? Cosmic Star Heroine, sort of like retro style JRPGs, but not like RPG Maker, like full from scratch. And this was, I picked it up because it's like $10 US, and it's apparently only a 5 or 6 hour game to beat, and it's fairly easy. You can change your difficulty. We were playing around with it a fair bit, but yeah, it's Shakespeare with, like, you're going into like his plays and quoting them and stuff, mixed with magical girl Sailor Moon.
Yeah, it's actually looked pretty neat. So,
and after you had to duck out of the stream, like almost right after, we were introduced to another couple of the magical girls that you can have into your party.
Yeah.
And one of them is named Beatrice, like my mom. And I was like, that is not a common name anymore. It wasn't a common name when my mom was born. She hated it because she's like, nobody has my name. It's an old lady name. And I said, Mom, now, I'm like, Mom, you're turning 66. And she's like, I'm not old enough to have this name yet. But yeah, so we had fun doing that. That's sort of been my week. It's been kind of hectic and crazy. Things weren't going to line up. You weren't feeling well. Schedules with work, sure, what we're going to do with my mom and everything for my birthday, so that's why we had to push the show
Yeah,
for a week.
I was about to say, yeah, it was just busy.
It was busy. There was health issues. It was kind of a perfect storm of things happening, and it's like, normally I would have gone, hey, you know what, I'll do it solo. And I went, no, I kind of need my week for my birthday right now with all this going on between everybody to decompress. Can we just do that and hang out and stream some games? And then you were like, good idea.
Yeah, I was going to say, yeah. So for me in the last week, it's been really, really, really busy. As you guys know, I am working as a reporter for one of my local newspapers. I've actually been doing a lot of articles recently, so much so they're like, hey Mike, can you slow down a touch? But I've recorded a really cool interview with someone from a very popular Canadian sitcom, so hopefully that article will be out in a couple of weeks, if not sooner. I'm working on a really cool article with the Guelph Storm right now, and one of my community members rather in the local community, and that should be pretty neat. Other than that though, my week has just been kind of taking it easy. In fact, okay, so you know how you have comfort shows that you just watch for fun. For you, it's a lot of anthology TV shows, right?
For me it's the anthology shows and the syndicated action shows.
Yeah, for me, I have discovered that my comfort person is a very angry Englishman. I think I've watched almost the entire run of the American Kitchen Nightmares in the last 2 weeks, because all I do is watch that on YouTube, and I'm thinking, this is nice. This is really calming. Yeah, it's weird.
Like, wasn't there a spell in like 2017 or 2018 where like I would come over to visit you guys and I would go home and you're like, can this visit be a little shorter because Blair and I have to watch like Hell's Kitchen?
No, we did during the entirety of the COVID-19 pandemic. We watched Hell's Kitchen from season 1 all the way to current. So yeah.
Oh no, sorry. It wasn't that. Yeah, 2017, 2018. It was all Big Brother Canada.
Yeah, which we caught up to that. Although we haven't watched the last 2 seasons because we just haven't liked the cast, though. Although I will say this, because I do like a fair chunk of reality TV, and I know a lot of it's bullshit. I will say this: Canadian Big Brother kicks the shit out of the US version, because here's why. When you have a Canadian television budget, you have a lot less money to play with. So you have to get goddamn creative, and you can't.
Personalities have to be bigger than what the producers can make look big.
Yeah, exactly. Like, casting is just typically better in Canada. And although one of my good friends is from Big Brother US, like, I'm still friends with Howie Gordon, aka Jedi Howie. And, you know, we talk a couple times a year, and he sent my wife something for her birthday last year. So me and reality TV have this really weird relationship, and I used to know one of the producers on Big Brother Canada, and I know one of the producers for Amazing Race Canada, which is pretty cool. He was actually one of the people I worked with when I did MTV Creeps about 10 years ago.
It's your connection is being on, which funny thing is MTV in the States, people are like, oh, that was big reality. It's like, no, MTV in Canada was the rung below much.
Oh yeah.
Right? So,
and it was so like, much low budget stuff.
And people are like, oh, is it like VH1?
No, VH1 had a budget.
It was like being on, what was the one? Was there another one in the States? Was it Fuse?
Something like that. Something like that.
It's like if MTV, 1 and 2 were the big ones, this would have been like MTV 8.
Yeah, it was like so bad.
Where all the TV hosts from Much Music went to die after Much Music fell apart.
Yeah,
but that being said, they did try their hand at stuff. And you were, was it 2 different shows you tried to get on there? Or was it just the one?
It was just the one. No, it was 2. Much Music offered me video on trial, and then the big Bell layoffs happened in 2008.
And your consolation prize was you got to go on MTV Canada, and people are like, what channel is that?
Yeah.
600?
Yeah, and that was in 2013, I want to say.
To give our American listeners an idea, MTV Canada, wasn't it like channel 70 something on the cable?
It was channel 36, and you.
Nope, channel 36 was much more music.
Yeah, I can't remember.
So it was in like the digital, like way you
Yeah.
had to have a digital cable box
Yes,
to
you
get
did.
it.
Yes.
Much more was channel 36. Country was 33 or
Yeah.
37?
31.
31.
Yeah.
No, 31 was Annie.
Okay.
So it had to be 32 or 33. But Much Music was Much was so popular in Canada, every basic cable package had it.
Yeah.
Because
CanCon.
every basic cable package in Canada, you got it up to channel 29. And 29 was Much Music, at least locally here. And then 28 was Fox and the networks and that. So out of all the channels, basic cable had 2 specialty channels included: YTV for kids and Much Music.
Yeah.
So that's how big it was, right? Like,
Mhm.
I don't even know, like, basic cable in the States included MTV, but I don't know if every package included it.
Yeah.
Right? So that's how big it was. So if you could get on there, great. But when somebody says like MTV Canada, you're like, where?
Yeah.
How do I find this?
Exactly. It's just one of those weird opportunities that kind of came my way. And honestly, I'm kind of happy just doing my like thing I do on like TikTok every couple of days, which is weird. I just found this out. So if you happen to follow me on socials, which is at Birdman Dodd, I was just granted the ability to do 10-minute TikTok videos. And
yeah, we found that out while we were talking. Like,
yeah, we're like, what the hell is this?
Because we were talking, and I said, Mike, I think you're bigger than you might expect. You're not like millions huge, but like you're bigger in the community than you might expect. And as you said that, I said, check out, can you check what your reach is or anything? And you're like, I don't know. And you went and looked, and you were like, wait a minute, I can upload larger videos than I could before.
Yeah. So once I crest that 1,000 followers, I can do TikTok lives, which that might be kind of fun because I've got a cousin. She's had a couple of accounts, and she gets.
Just don't do it when you're angry.
Yeah, no. So hopefully, I'll get something interesting.
Or if you're treated badly in the moment, maybe pull it out and start recording.
Yeah, exactly. I mean, I had a pretty negative experience this past week, and I did speak with the representative from one of these local retailers. It went about as well as you might expect. They're supposed to call me back from their regional manager, but there's some other stuff I really can't say right now, Alex. I'll tell you off air.
Okay, fair enough. Basically, poor experience that really shouldn't happen.
Yeah.
But they're probably going to get in trouble for.
Exactly. Basically a teachable moment, as we might say. So other than that, though, we do have a lot of really cool stuff to talk about with you here on the show this week. One of the things we're going to be taking a look at is because happening as of this recording, Renegade Game Studios, the guys who did G.I. Joe, Power Rangers, and Transformers role-playing games, as well as My Little Pony, they're holding a virtual convention right now, and they're announcing new product lines and new supplements for some of their role-playing games. So a game we're going to be taking a look at this week is the long-awaited Transformers role-playing game, which we will be playing here on the show as our limited series during the spring. Alex will be doing Power Rangers at some point before that. So we're going to be recording 2 shows, and they'll be released at some point during the spring. So you'll have stuff going into the spring and summer. So we'll be talking about that. I want to see what they're going to announce so I can say, hey guys, you should definitely check this out. Here's the, I don't know, War for Cybertron supplement or something. I don't know if that's the supplement being announced. I think that's for their deck building game, but we'll definitely be talking about that in my review this week. And Alex, what reviews are you going to be having for me this week?
I've got a bunch. That's part of the reason why we didn't do the show last week either, is I received a bunch of games for review on their launch day, meaning I could maybe have scrambled through one of them and then pulled all my hair out. But one of those was Fire Emblem Engage, which is a 40 to 60 hour game. And I was like, oh, I received it. And I was like, I can't get this done in 3 days. Even I'm a Superman when it comes to marathon game sessions. It's like, no, I have to take my time to enjoy it. So we're going to have Fire Emblem Engage in this week's show. As well as, let me see here, I've got a few. I'm probably going to have the new SpongeBob Cosmic Shake game, which is a spiritual successor / maybe full successor to the games that They were remastered recently, if you remember. I think.
Yeah,
Did we review it? I think you did.
Yeah,
maybe.
I'm pretty sure I did.
A year ago.
And I was
a year ago, maybe.
Yeah, and I want to say I'm rather pleased to see this resurgence in simple IPs getting good games. I know we reviewed the Star Trek Prodigy game, which was surprisingly decent.
Yeah, and this is in that same sort of vein. It's not. It's like not necessarily even a double A. It's like an A to double A, somewhere in between there, right? You know what I mean? Like good production values for a simple scope in the budget. This one has all the voice actors returning, like from the show, right?
Mm-hmm.
So that elevates it a fair bit. They didn't just get sound alikes, or the worst thing that you can do with one of these games is
have no voices.
Have no voices with just either sound effects or silence from the characters.
Yeah.
That's not fun.
Yeah. So kind of like how Nick All-Star Brawl finally added stuff in a little late into its lifestyle. And then when Nick Kart Racers, I think, added in stuff for the latest edition, which I don't think I got the latest version. No, I have 2, but I don't think I got 3. Did I?
Yeah, I don't think it was probably it was the Christmas rush where we had too much going on.
Mm-hmm.
At the same time, you don't want to put voices in after the news cycle's over because nobody cares.
Yeah, so
it's nice that it's launching with it. And I'll also have a couple reviews coming in
Turtle Treasure.
Turtle Treasure, which you might have heard before this, or you might have heard after. So I don't know. But what those will be are from NAS America. I've got a review of Raiden 4 Cross Mikado Remix. I want to make sure I say that right because it's one of those long Japanese titles. Basically, the old arcade shooter Raiden 4
mm-hmm.
with a remixed high quality soundtrack added to it.
Ooh.
As well as you remember the PS5 having trailers when they were like launching it? Here's all the upcoming games.
Yeah.
You know, they had that one called Season, A Letter to the Future. That's the one where the dude was riding around on a bicycle and then talking to like people, but also like mythical creatures and like recording things down in a journal.
Oh, yeah.
Where like it looked like it might be like post-apocalyptic or the world's ending or something. So that is either going to be in the Turtle Treasure episode or it might be in next week's show because I'm still working on that one right now. But yeah, that all sort of came in at the same time a few days before we were going to have our episode come out. And we went, no, we're taking a week.
Yeah, so we will have a lot of stuff on Turtle Treasure. I got some really cool stuff from Hasbro. I've got Transformers. I got Dungeons and Dragons toys that I really want to talk about. A lot of really kind of neat stuff. I also have some stuff from Paramount. I think I got some stuff from Warner Brothers. We're going to try and clear out our review bins in the next couple of weeks so we can bring you fresh new content. But we're going to take a break here on ThisWeekInGeek.net, and we are going to prepare to transform and roll out. This is my review of the Transformers, the role-playing game from Renegade Game Studios. We'll be back, guys, right after this.
Megatron must be stopped, no matter the cost.
Hey guys, this is Mike the Birdman here, and I'm here to talk about something really special. Been looking forward to talking about this for a long time. I'm talking about the Renegade Game Studios version of the Transformers role-playing game. So this game is powered by the Essence 20 system, which is the same game system that powers G.I. Joe. It also makes the Power Rangers game work, and in theory, you could make all these games work together. In fact, these guys just recently held a virtual event called Renegade Con, and they talk about if you wanted to have G.I. Joe show up in your Transformers game, you can do that. You could even have Zords fight against Megatron and Shockwave and all those guys. So if you want all these systems to play nice, you can do that, and with not a lot of headache work either. For those of you that don't know, Transformers, one of the biggest IPs from the 1980s, transforming robots that can transform the cars, trucks, jets, artillery pieces, beast modes like giant cats and stuff like that, or even cassette decks like Soundwave and Blaster. So lots of cool stuff. I mean, obviously the movies really have been big in the last 15 years, if you can believe that, since 2007. And then we had Bumblebee, we got Rise of the Beast coming out in just a few months. And these guys recently just held an event called Renegade Con, where they previewed some of the stuff that is coming up for the Transformers role-playing game, but I'll talk about that a little bit later towards the end of this review. So the Transformers role-playing game, like I said, runs on the Essence 20 system. You have 4 stats, and you have skills, and those go up by ranks, and those would go up by D2, D4, D6, D8, and D10, D12, and you roll 1 D20, but you might get a chance to roll another one, which may add to that, or, you might roll a complication or a shift down. Basically, the mechanics, once you really get into them and you get like a session under your belt, really easy to get into. And this game is built around the idea of, well, you're a transforming robot. And they actually build in rules for triple changers that's really easier than I thought it was going to be to understand. They also build in mass shifting, so you might wonder how a transformer like, say, Broadside or Soundwave or Shockwave might work. They have that kind of built in because, Soundwave is a cassette player. Shockwave turns into a giant space gun or can be wielded by a smaller person. And how does that work? And Broadside is an aircraft carrier. So they do manage to kind of make that work, more or less. They do talk about alternate beast modes as well, so if you want to be a robotic dinosaur, like Grimlock, Swoop, Snarl, and Sludge, you can do that. But, if you want to be an Insecticon like Kickback or Shrapnel, you can also do that. They don't have true beast modes like Optimus Primal or Inferno or Pterosaur, but they're going to be doing that presumably in later books. I would say the game is pretty easy to get the base mechanics down, like having skills and specializations that adds to your amount of dice that you can roll. Resolving things is pretty easy. I tend to run things a little bit rules light, so I might run this a little bit simplified for my guys when we run this on TWIG during our spring season. This is actually going to be our game for the spring summer. We're going to do a 10 episode limited series of Transformers. I'll talk about that in the coming weeks. I do like this. The only thing that I'd say is a big complaint I have, and this seems to be with every Renegade Studios book, is they name the threats. So you get like Megatron, Soundwave, you even get Cyclonus, you get parts of certain combiners, you get like the lead part of Ruination, you get 2 people from Menasor, but you also get like Cyclonus, you get Acid Storm, you get Armorhide, and you get like some really weird Decepticons, and you get a really wide range of them, but you don't get statted Autobots, which is really kind of annoying. I mean, you didn't even get them in the Power Rangers game, which kind of annoyed me too. You did get some ones that were available through other places, and I know there are places on Reddit that have given you statted Autobots, and so you can recreate those ones, you can use those ones online. I think they're pretty fantastic, all things considered. How the game breaks down, you have like your origin, which is what are you, your influences, like maybe you were a scientist, maybe you were a bureaucrat, which, that's what you did. But what is your alt mode? Maybe you're a Cybertronian helicopter. Maybe you're an Earth Formula One race car. Stuff like that. And the game draws from a variety of different lore too, because it includes characters like Windblade, who I know is a fairly recent addition to the Transformers universe, which is actually really, really, really cool. And there was something that I caught in this, because I'm only really starting to read the Transformers comics now. There is same-sex relationships built in here, because, you might be wondering, well, do robots have sex? Well, RC's a girl, so's Elita 1 and Moonracer and Nightbird, stuff like that. And they talk about a pair of Autobots that are a bonded couple. And I thought that was actually really, really, really cool. And they even talk about the idea at one point that human Transformer relationships are not unheard of, though obviously nothing too weird. But you think about the classic Transformers episode, The Girl Who Loved Power Glide, and stuff like that. So there are some really nice deep cuts in this lore. And there's even characters I didn't expect to be mentioned, even in passing. Like there's an interview with Jetfire, and it's Rewind or Eject doing the interview, and that's one of Blaster's cassette tapes. That really made me happy, and actually one of my favorite bots too. There's a lot to like here if you want to run a Transformers game. I know there's an adventure, I think it's called Beacon of Hope. There is a GM screen, and some of the things that are coming down the pipe. There's an adventure book calling The Time Is Now, and that can take your characters from levels 1 to 6. And there's going to be some new characters in there, some new threats, and stuff that you can run with. They did say, despite some of the artwork, that Unicron is not in it. Whatever. That's still pretty cool. So this is something we're going to be running on TWIG during the spring. I'm really looking forward to running it. I know Alex is going to be running Power Rangers in about a month or so. So you will be hearing this here on the show. So can I recommend it? Well, yes, but I'm going to say you're going to have to do a little bit of digging for resources if you want Autobots that you're not creating yourself. But the book does provide a really wide variety of Decepticons from all eras, from all kind of different continuities. Like, they even have characters in there I didn't really expect, like Acid Storm, who's one of the Rainmaker Seekers. That really kind of impressed me. Like I said, I was really impressed to see Cyclonus in there. They even mentioned Unicron. So there's a lot of stuff here, and I can tell a lot of love went into this. I really hope Renegade Game Studios takes this license and runs with it so hard, because making books for this, especially during a movie year, is going to be so easy. With Transformers Rise of the Beast coming out in June, that's an easy source book if you want to cover the Beast Wars era. If you want to cover things like Headmasters and Target Masters, they talk about those in the book, so you can do that. They talk about Minicom partners, but I'm going all over the place. Long story short, I completely recommend this book. If you're a Transformers fanatic, I think you're going to have a lot of fun with it. If you want to bring this to your table, you are going to have an amazing time. So until next time, folks, this has been Mike the Birdman saying, till all are one.
Time. One shall stand, one shall fall. Why throw away your life so recklessly? That's a question you should ask yourself, Megatron.
The Prime Minister of Sweden visited Washington today, and my tiny little nipples went to France.
Gossip, rumors, panic in the streets. We're lucky.
This Week in Geek
News.
Hey guys, welcome back to ThisWeekInGeek.net. All right, so we have a lot of stuff to talk about here on the show this week. It's actually been a surprisingly big news week on a couple of different fronts. So I'm going to start with the really big story this week, and this will affect a lot of us simply because, you know, there's the old phrase Netflix and chill. And do you love your partner or your friends enough to share your Netflix password? Well, that may be coming to an end. Now,
Well, I should preface this that this has been updated multiple times.
yes, I have the latest version from Apple Insider.
Yeah, and we'll say this. If you've heard this before, you think you've heard this before, there's been a lot of backpedaling and a lot of changes, and you know, we'll clarify a little at the end of this article as to what the most recent update is.
So this article I have from Apple Insider.com. This was posted on February 3rd, so this was on Friday. So Netflix says strict new password sharing rules were posted in air. Right. According to this, new Netflix rules that would have enforced a limitation on user sharing passwords are reportedly a mistake and don't apply in the US for now. Netflix has long been planning to cut down on password sharing or letting friends share one paid account. If it already added a feature where subscribers could eject other people from their account. The company appeared to go further, however, with the inclusion in its help pages of a new set of rules. Broadly, anyone at a subscriber's physical address could continue using the service, but the paying subscriber would have to confirm every 31 days that a user away from their residence, such as a college, were part of the household. Now, however, those rules have been removed from Netflix's help pages. According to the Streamable, Netflix says it was all a mistake for the United States. For a brief time yesterday, a Help Center article contained information that is only applicable to Chile, Costa Rica, and Peru, and went live in other countries, a Netflix spokesperson told the publication. Quote, "We have since updated it." So these rules are in place just in those countries, but Netflix estimates that 100 million users are not paying, and it's losing subscribers to the tune of 200,000 in just the first quarter of 2022. Consequently, Netflix says it will end password sharing in early 2023. So whether this was a mistake or some sort of public or some sort of a test of public response, those rules or similar ones are likely to be coming soon. Separately, as part of another attempt to stem the loss of non-paying subscribers, Netflix has launched a new lower cost $6.99 per month basic tier with adverbs that started in November of 2022. This will end badly for you.
Yes. Now, the update to this is that with those countries, there was a little context given. It's all over the net. They're those particular countries were the countries that they believed had the highest amount of people sharing passwords, or had even subcultures of people that would pay for an account and then lease out their account to multiple people to make double or triple the money that like I pay for, the equivalent in my country's money of $20 a month, and then I'm selling the account access to 20 people for $5 a month.
Mm-hmm.
And then they're making 5 times what, 5 times or more, depending on what their packages they're doing, to make it cheaper for people that can't afford to pay the full price. But then again, they're basically reselling accounts. So they're trying to curb that, where they're like, for every one paid account, there's 20 people accessing it, when they only want a maximum of 4 within a household. So they're targeting those countries. What they're not really getting is the people there are doing that because they can't afford your service. So cutting them out, you're not going to make any more money. In fact, what you'll do is you'll make it so that those reseller people don't exist and they won't pay for you.
Yeah,
so you're actually going to lose the paid people in those countries, but they just don't understand that. And then people are only willing to use a service that they can afford.
Mm-hmm.
And if they can't afford it, they'll just go, okay, we'll pirate it.
Yeah.
They will just flat out pirate it.
And
then if you go to our countries, and if you go Canada, there's more competition out there for cheaper than Netflix now that offers better or more services. They're growing bigger. They're losing licenses. There's trouble. You know what's not going to save them? $6.99 plus ads. No, that's not going to save you. I believe, wasn't it Hulu and some of the others were dropping that service, to making them just ads, because you can't. It's not sustainable to charge money and provide ads, because people will go, why? And they're like, well, then we're going to get you to bump up to the $8.99 or $9.99. No, the people that can only afford $6.99 will just say, I won't get your service. And and if you don't like that, too fucking bad. And they just don't get it. The people at the top management there do not understand it, because if you look, the people that are all running Netflix now are the people that were brought in shortly after Netflix came and said, hey, we're investing these hundreds of millions of dollars and billions of dollars in original programming, shortly after House of Cards.
Mm-hmm.
And it was after House of Cards was a success. That was the experiment. And then
Stranger Things. Yeah.
And then they said, here's a $2 billion a year plan we have to make content in every language in every country exclusive, yada, yada, yada. And to help manage that, they brought in new people, and then all the original people that had the vision left. And look who's left. It's not the same company anymore.
No, it's completely different.
So they don't have the vision. They're not, this is what I don't get. They're not losing money. And I don't want to sound like crazy anti-capitalist or anything, but you know what? You don't have to make more every year. If you're already making $5 billion a year, you don't need to make 6 next year and 7 the year after. If you're already making a huge amount of profit above your operating expenses, and we're talking huge profits these companies make, there is no need to make more. It's the publicly traded company aspect that's bad. But the thing is, Netflix is, I believe, a private company. They've never had to reveal their data for anything. So it means that the people that are the shareholders that own the company are beyond greedy now. And that's not what it was like when they started.
Mm-hmm.
This isn't public companies have to provide their viewership numbers. Everything. They don't. They just make up whatever they want because they can. But this is a unique situation where you might see some heads roll over this. This is going to be another Hasbro situation. I can totally see, this having massive, massive ramifications for them in the future. They might have thought that hey, we're gonna save, some money on this, and we're gonna convert maybe a third of the people that weren't paying to paying. No, they're gonna lose 50% of the people that were paying. That were like, hey, what about my kids who are off at college, right? That was an example given. How about this? What about America? You know how America is with their military,
Mm-hmm.
how they treat their soldiers and everything, as in we salute them. I'm not saying treating them badly. I mean, like, they're all about, their soldiers that you're serving, right? What about mom who has the family Netflix plan and gives the password to their son or daughter who's now going overseas to serve, and they find out they're on base, this is their only relief, and they can't log in because Netflix says, fuck you, you're not home.
Mm-hmm.
You're over there fighting for our freedom, but you're not allowed to access it.
Yeah, like, it's dumb. Now, I freely share my Netflix account with a few people, but that being said, I pay for the highest tier plan because I want 4K, I want downloads, I want everything.
And I'll be flat out open too. My brother pays for it. He's been paying for Netflix. We would split it with him. I give him a few bucks here and there. My mom did it years ago. And we were splitting it when we were all living together.
Mm-hmm.
And then when we moved, he just upped it to the highest tier, which I didn't realize was $22 now.
Mm-hmm.
It used to be $14.
Yep.
They increased the cost and didn't give us anything new.
Yeah.
They almost doubled it. And I went, okay, well, here's a few extra bucks. I almost never use it. My dad logs in and uses my profile. I never use Netflix because other than Stranger Things, I have not found a single thing that I was interested in watching that was an original program on there.
I watched the Transformer stuff. I watched He-Man, the toys
like
that
6
made
or 7
us.
years. Yeah, but those are eventually going to go to other properties because they're not owned by them. Right?
Actually, no, those are the Netflix exclusive shows.
They're exclusive for now. They don't own Hasbro.
It's true. I mean, I would be very surprised if they put War for Cybertron on another platform. But when it comes to regular stuff, there isn't a lot on there that I don't get. I mean, if I want to watch The Walking Dead, for example, I can get that through Amazon and get AMC Plus for $5, and I'll get a lot more extra stuff.
Yeah, like here's the breakdown of how we've got it set up, and it's probably similar to what a lot of families in North America and around the world have. Is you have people that each had one service they sub to within their family, and then they shared that service with each other in their family.
Mm-hmm.
So, like, Netflix was my brother sharing it. Amazon Prime, I was the one that shared that until my brother got his own place and got his own, but that's still shared with my mom and my father. Then Paramount Plus I'm paying for,
Mm-hmm.
and that goes to our family unit. Then beyond that, of what I'm actually involved in paying for, is I paid for AMC Plus because they had a deal for Boxing Day, so I've got a year of that shared amongst the family. And then my brother got Crave, which I had swore I would never do because of how they price tiered it, right?
Mm-hmm.
But he got a deal for Boxing Day where it was Crave plus Stars plus HBO all together for $110 for the year, and with profiles and everything. And we went, okay, so he's showing that this way, and that covers pretty much all of the bases. And then there's access to other things, like I've got Apple TV through PlayStation because they gave us 6 months for free just for owning a PS5, right?
Mm-hmm.
So, and there's other services out there too, but like that's how a lot of people have it set up. Most people don't have multiple services because once you get to the point where you've got 3 or 4, you're spending $70, $80, especially with how they've raised the prices, and now you're paying more than cable. So what's the point?
Yeah, I mean, for me, I have a lot of services. Like, I've got Crave plus HBO, I've got Netflix, I got Funimation, I got High Dive, I've got Crunchyroll. Now, Crunchyroll I pay for. Funimation I have an account with. Paramount Plus I got a press account. I have Stack TV via Amazon. Okay, my cat just did a really weird bunny hop. It was kind of hilarious. I wish I could show you the streaming video right now. It's actually quite.
But
cute.
yeah, like we have some access to certain services through press accounts, and that that's great. But if we didn't have that, if we added up the cost of all the accounts, it's like $100 or more.
Yeah, it's really expensive to get services, and even with like cable, I don't know. We pay the basic. I pay an extra $5 a month to get CNN, CP24, and a couple of different kind of news networks. You can guess which one I don't sub to. And
what was it? RT?
Yeah, but yeah.
No. I know what you want. You want Sun TV.
Oh yeah, bring it on.
With the was it 1 week that they ran Ford Nation or whatever on there.
Something like that. I think they aired one episode.
Which was like somehow a mixture of, was it Mad Money? That guy's kind of crazy, ridiculous show.
Mm-hmm.
It was like that mixed with the worst Kmart Dollarama version of like Tucker Carlson.
Yeah, it was just so friggin' goofy.
Two sweaty Fords just sweating on everybody and yelling about the government and when can they get their crack or whatever. And
it was so goofy.
Oh, who would have? Sorry, the tiny tangent. Who would have thought that we would miss the days of like oh man, we miss Rob Ford. Why did he have to be the one that went?
I know, right?
Like you're like, oh man, why couldn't he have stayed and then his brother couldn't have completely screwed over the entire province? I always said he was the dangerous one because he was the more competent one, and then you see him and it's like, oh, he's not that he's competent. He was the more competent one.
Yeah, it's so bloody ugh. But anyway, so yeah, I mean, Netflix password sharing, I guess we're going to have to wait and see what happens with it. But I would maybe say these days are extremely numbered.
Yeah, keep an eye out. And here's the thing. If we get to a point, like I'm going to be flat out with it, where we have to pay for Netflix, like each separate home. My brother even told me, he's like, I'm going to cancel it. He goes, I'll be gone with it. My mom won't have it. It'll just be something that she just does without. And my father watched Netflix like 24/7. He's the guy that consumed everything on there.
Mm-hmm.
And I'm going to tell him, like, if you want it, we're not going to go with the low tier because it's 720p with ads for $7.
Yeah, no.
But if you want the $8 one, let me know and I'll sub to it because I'm the one with the credit card that has, stuff on the account for it. And then you just pay me back if you want it because I'm not going to watch it. If that's what you really want. But like outside of that, like they're going to go from getting $22 a month to getting like maybe $8 from us.
Yeah.
They're not going to convert anybody. And unless there's only one way around this. And this is the only way I think they can do this in North America.
Mm-hmm.
And that is, it's your family plan is your $21 a month. This is Canadian. I'm not sure if it's, 18 or 19 in America, maybe, or something.
Mm-hmm.
But it's $21.99 here, or $20.99, I think, plus taxes. If they said, hey, for each additional IP address outside of your home, as long as they've got a profile on your account, it's an extra $5. And if they did that, and then it meant that my mom had to pay my brother an extra $5, and I had to pay an extra $5, but it was all billed to the same account, and that was their way of going for $20 to $30 a month, then they can get away with it because we in North America have the extra money to do that with. But like, you're not going to get $30 a Canadian or US out of somewhere that's a developing country. They're just not going to do it.
Yeah,
it's a death knell for their entire service.
Yeah, so frustrating to say the least. So our next story also involves a big company maybe doing something what I think is potentially very stupid. So this comes courtesy of comicbook.com, but has been confirmed by multiple outlets. If you hear some bumping in right now, my cats are currently fighting in the bottom of my recording table, so I do apologize for that.
Stop playing Bat.
Yeah, please, Beaker and Dutch, can you please fuck off? Anyway,
why can't you go sleep? Daddy's doing work.
So according to this, PlayStation Plus is removing massive feature for PlayStation 5 subscribers. So PlayStation Plus subscribers on PS5 are losing one of the biggest features the subscription service offers. There are a variety of reasons to be subscribed to PlayStation Plus on PS5. The biggest is to have multiplayer access beyond free-to-play games. The other biggest perk is the monthly free games. Or if you're a PS Plus Extra or PS Plus premium subscriber, instant access to a vast variety of PlayStation games. On PS5 specifically, though, all subscribers, no matter the tier, have free and unlimited access to a collection to some of the best PlayStation 4 games via the appropriately titled PS Plus collection. That is ending, though, which means PlayStation Plus subscribers are losing access to 19 different games. The good news is, however, if you redeem these games before the offer expires, you can keep the games for as long as you maintain an active subscription. If your subscription lapses, you will lose access to the games. Meanwhile, all new subscribers after the expiration date will not have any access to the to the 19 games. And the expiration date for this is May 9th. So the games that you will be losing access to, I'm just going to kind of read this out here, is Batman Arkham Knight, Battlefield 1, Bloodborne, Call of Duty Black Ops 3, Crash Bandicoot Insane Edition, Days Gone, Detroit Become Human, Fallout 4, Final Fantasy 14 Royal Edition, God of War, that's the 2018 reboot, Infamous Second Son, Monster Hunter World, Mortal Kombat X, Ratchet and Clank, The Last Guardian, The Last of Us Remastered, Resident Evil 7 Biohazard, Uncharted 4 Thief's End, and finally Until Dawn. As noted, and as you can see, the collection includes some of the best and most popular PlayStation 4 games. This sucks. These are all great games.
Not as bad as you'd think. All the first-party titles are already a part of PS Plus.
Yeah, but I just think...
Sorry. PS Plus... Not the lowest tier, the middle tier, the one that's considered the best value.
Yeah, I think honestly, if they want to sunset these games, fine, but put out something else for after May 9th.
No, I don't think they should. I'm actually going to argue against it.
Okay.
They said this was for the launch period.
Okay, all right.
This was supposed to be for a year, roughly a year. That anybody that was an early adopter of the console or within the launch window, 6 months to a year, here's what you can have. That's a transition. Also for somebody who might be getting, maybe somebody didn't, even though that was the big console of the last generation, maybe you're coming back into gaming now and you wanted a 4K player and blah, 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 blah. Maybe you were an Xbox guy and you were kind of burned and you wanted to move over. Or maybe you were just a Nintendo person and you're like, you know what? I love my Switch, but I'd like to have a more robust system, but I didn't have a PS4 or I don't have the physical discs. Also, maybe you're somebody who wanted to get the PS5 digital edition like you have. How am I going to play my physical discs of these classic games that I own? So they went, okay, here's a package of the best ones, the best 20 games. And you can have it. And that way, if you have a digital console, you don't have to worry about trying to fit those discs in.
Yeah.
And I went, okay, so that good for a year. Well, the pandemic hit, and now it turned into almost 3 years. And at this point, if you're complaining that you're not getting these games that are regularly on sale for $5 or part of the PlayStation Plus middle tier, which PS Plus, the lower tier, it's kind of required because cloud saves. You have no ability to save your PS5 games off of your console at all through USB like you could with PS4 or PS3. If you don't if you don't have even the lowest tier of PlayStation Plus, you have no backup of your saves.
Yeah.
At all. So you need to have that, and it's only $20 more or so to go to the middle tier that has a couple hundred free games, including almost all the first-party titles here. So, the only games you're losing out on what might be one or two that aren't part of that list, but I'm pretty sure almost all of those are in the PS Plus. It's not Essential. Essentials is the low one. Whatever the second and third tiers, I believe that they're included within those two.
Yeah.
Almost entirely. So you're not really losing anything. And if you're a new person that's just getting here and just getting the console, again, you're probably going to get a deal when you get the console where you get a month or 3 months of PS Plus. They're included there anyway. So all they're doing is sunsetting something that was supposed to be sunset 2 years ago.
Yeah, I mean, I don't know. I kind of wish they'd keep it going, but I'm the type of guy who loves a bargain, loves a coupon. That's sort of my thing.
But it's not. How is it gone? If they're not gone. These aren't being removed from PS Plus.
I guess I think I just like the idea that if you buy a PlayStation, here's something cool.
Now, refresh my memory. Did you have to have PS Plus to get this service, to get those?
See, that's the thing I don't 100% remember.
Because
maybe
the only thing that could be a downside here would be, if I can't remember, if you had to be a subscriber to get it. If you didn't have to be a subscriber to get them and play them, like if I canceled my PS Plus subscription, would I still have been able to play those ones?
No.
And that's what they're sunsetting?
Yeah.
Because if that's the case, then yeah, you're losing a little bit. You might lose a couple people, but again, you really, you are, and I'm sorry, you are a fool if you don't have PS Plus, the lowest tier, just for your save files alone. Because if anything happens to your console, your game saves are completely gone forever. because there is no way to back them up without PS Plus. Which again, that's a whole other argument of maybe they should have enabled the backups of saves to USB sticks again. But regardless, it's kind of ridiculous to me, that some people at media sites are making a big deal out of this. A big deal would be I purchased a couple games and now it's being removed from my library, and then I can only get it if I sub. If that happened, people would riot.
Yeah,
but it's not. Now, it's not as good of a value as what we got you remember the PS4 when you first got a PS4 within I think the launch window was it the first 3 months? I think it was the first 3 months. If you got it, you got a copy of Gun, and was it Contrast was the other game?
I think so. I don't think I ever redeemed those.
Oh, I did, because I got my system day one, right? And when you got those were yours permanently. They're not a part of PS Plus, because PS Plus existed, but it wasn't like you got those, and if you weren't subscribing, they were yours for free forever. And you could argue, well, they didn't do that on this console. Well, they did. They gave you Astrobot, right? So you get a game so again, this to me is a non-issue. Anybody that's whining about this hasn't really sat down and thought about it. It sucks that things are changing, obviously.
Mm-hmm.
But if you really look at it, not much is changing. Now that the consoles are readily available, they're in every store. They sold 7 million in the last 3 months. We're no longer in the shortage period. It's finally over.
Yeah, but it's getting a little bit easier to find them, because I follow a Twitter account that checks Canadian supplies for them, and I haven't seen them in stores too often. I see more Xbox Series X's, but
Amazon never ran out of stock during the Christmas season.
Yeah, I never see any problems finding them on Walmart or Indigo or Staples or wherever.
Yeah.
It's pretty easy to find them online for sure.
And now this is entering into tinfoil hat territory, but there's been rumors of them doing a refit of the console, of the digital version,
Mm-hmm.
making it a little smaller, and then releasing a optical drive that you plug in through USB. Now, if that happens, that would mean, Michael, that you could get one, and then we could finally share games.
That'd be really nice, yeah.
And the big point there is, would it be as fast to install? No, it would take longer to install your game from a USB drive than it would from the optical internal drive. It's just how it is. Mm-hmm. So it might take twice as long to install, but once it's installed,
it works.
It's basic. It's just there to read from the disk for GRM validation.
Mm-hmm.
But here's my tinfoil hat theory. If they put out a slim, digital edition where they don't have to have an optical drive internally, and then they release an optical drive externally, one cool thing for me is I could plug one into mine and I could install 2 games at once. That would be neat. But anyway, that's kind of overkill. But for you or anybody else getting it, removing these games, I feel like they put these games there as a welcome thing, not really so much as a welcome thing for most people. I feel they put that there as a panic, and control system, because they knew people were going to give them flack for releasing an all-digital system where they couldn't play their games that they owned on disc. So they couldn't pop in their popular PS4 games if they already had the library.
Yeah.
Right? So you release a USB attachment that turns the digital console into having the ability to play their PS4 games. There's no need for these to be there.
Yeah.
Because
yeah.
If you're now a new person coming into the console, and you're like, you know what, I'm going to get the digital edition, and I'm going to get that external drive or down the line, or I'm going to get it because now I have my built-in library where I can play all my games that I owned on physical disc, and now I won't scream at Sony for removing the software from the library. I think that this is an indication that external drive is coming, because then if somebody wants to complain, somebody can say, well, you can still play the games you own now.
Yeah.
You don't have to have this digital if you don't want it.
Yeah, I guess hopefully this will be a really good thing in the end.
So that's just how my brain works. Sony has done dumb things, but this is not as dumb of a move or as greedy of a move as you might think. I think the timing of the announcement was not the greatest. I think they should have announced they should have announced the disc attachment and then announced they were sunsetting this about a month later.
Yeah.
Because then then people would already put 2 and 2 together. because I swear that was the reason it was here. It was not to welcome new people to PS5 and hear some of the classics. I think they put it there because they knew the number one complaint they were going to get from people getting the discless system was, how do I play my PS4 games that I have on disc?
Yeah.
And their solution would have been, well, you can't, but here's 20 of the most popular ones for free that you can play.
Yeah. So, moving on to our next story. This one comes courtesy of superherohype.com. This was a pretty big story earlier in the week, and I'm kind of glad we had a little bit of time for this to breathe. James Gunn unveils new DC film and TV slate. So, when James Gunn and Peter Safran were named co-CEOs of DC Studios, they promised fans wouldn't have to wait too long to see their plans. So, via Deadline, the duo outlined their plan for the new DC film and TV slate, which will be called Chapter 1, Gods and Monsters. The projects in question will be released between 2025 and 2027. First up is Creature Commandos, an animated series about a group of monsters that will include Weasel from the Suicide Squad. Gunn wrote the series and noted that the animation will lead into live action and back into animation. Instead of Peacemaker Season 2, the next live-action DC series will follow Viola Davis's Amanda Waller. Gunn noted that his commitments to the next Superman film will keep him from immediately working on more Peacemaker episodes for the near future, but he added, we're using the same actors. This is a continuation of Peacemaker. We're working on Waller in between. Doom Patrol's Jeremy Carver and Watchmen's Crystal Henry are writing the show. Gunn's previously revealed Young Superman movie will be called Superman Legacy. It will be released on July 11th, 2025, and does not have a director yet. Safran said, quote, this is really the start of the DCU. It is not an origin story. It focuses on Superman balancing his Kryptonian heritage with his human upbringing. He's the embodiment of truth, justice, and the American way. His kindness in a world that thinks of kindness as old-fashioned. Greg Berlanti's Green Lantern series appears to be going away. In its place is Lanterns, an HBO live-action series that will feature Earth's two main Green Lanterns, Hal Jordan and Jon Stewart. Safran likened it to HBO's True Detective and said, quote, it plays a really big role in the next story that we're telling across our film and television. This is a very important show for us. Perhaps the biggest surprise of the initial lineup is The Authority, based upon the Wildstorm comic created by Warren Ellis and Brian Hitch. The powerful team of anti-heroes takes it upon themselves to confront threats on an incredible scale, while also enforcing their will on Earth's rogue governments. Gunn said, quote, there's great Wildstorm characters that are popular for a long time, and we're incorporating them into the DCU. Wonder Woman was absent from the upcoming slate, but the Amazon heroine will be represented in Paradise Lost, a new HBO Max live-action series. Safran compared it to Game of Thrones and said it would be a prequel series that explores the origins of Themyscira, the home of the Amazon, centuries before Diana and Wonder Woman was born. Gunn notes that The Batman 2 is still in the works and it will be released on October 3rd, 2025, but the DCU will have a Batman and Robin of their own.
25?
Well, it's only 2 years away.
That's a long time for something that doesn't have a ton of special effects.
Yeah. They also go on to say that the DCU will have their own Batman in their story called The Brave and the Bold. This film will feature its influences from Grant Morrison's Batman run, which introduced Damian Wayne, Bruce Wayne's son from Talia al Ghul, who becomes the new Robin. Booster Gold, the hero from the future, will be getting his own HBO Max live-action series. Gunn described Booster as, quote, imposter syndrome as a superhero, since he comes back in time to find glory as a hero that he could never achieve in his own time.
But I think, is that the guy that they used in the...
He was in Smallville, and he's had a couple appearances on TV.
Wasn't he in the Krypton show?
I think he appeared once, actually. I'm not sure.
Wasn't he the guy? Is he the guy? No, he's not the guy I was thinking of. Okay, the guy I was thinking of is, I forget his name, but he got flung into the future or to an alien. No, he got flung to the future in an alien planet.
Mm-hmm.
And he has like a jetpack and time travel device that he doesn't know how to use. And he's married to some alien there. And he keeps going back in time to try to save Superman, because if Superman dies or Superman's father dies before Superman can be born, it screws up the future, Back to the Future style. It was really good.
Yeah,
that was the one good that was like one of the few good DC TV shows like seriously good TV shows, and they canceled it right away because it was on Sci-Fi.
And then the article continues to say, for the first time since 1985, Supergirl is getting her own movie again. The upcoming Supergirl Woman of Tomorrow film will be based upon Tom King's comic book series that was released last year. In this iteration, Supergirl, who was raised on a rock, a chip off Krypton, watched everyone around her die and killed in a terrible way for the first 14 years of her life, then came to Earth when she was a young girl. She's much more hardcore, and she's not exactly the Supergirl we're used to seeing. Finally, the last project announced was Swamp Thing, a new feature film based upon the classic DC character. The movie will be, quote, investigate the dark origins of the creature, and it will be totally different from other DC movies. This actually sounds pretty cool. I'm in.
Yeah, it sounds good. A lot of people have got to stick up their butt, and they're still complaining about
Zack Snyder stuff.
Well, no, I think those people are gone.
I hope so.
Hopefully. No, but it's the people that are complaining about what happened to Superman.
Yeah, Henry Cavill,
And you know what? He wants to wipe the slate clean from all the terribleness that was... Snyder shouldn't be allowed to make movies ever again.
Although, I did read some stuff, and I've seen this on a few different places. Supposedly, Gunn's candid comments this week pissed a few people off. But that being said, he says certain characters may continue. There was a quote that he said regarding the Flash that he's already seen. He says it resets most things, but not everything. And there's been some talk of Ezra Miller's commitment to his mental health journey. Supposedly he's gotten better.
No,
we'll see.
No, you don't get... Okay, you might get better when it comes to your mental health and your stability. That doesn't change who you are.
Yeah.
And if you are a violent, sadistic, sociopathic asshole, that doesn't change.
Yeah, like I would be very surprised if they continued him on, but I know they're supposed to be continuing Jason Momoa as Aquaman. There was talk of
Momoa's is going to be depending on how much money they want to dump onto his lap.
Yeah. They haven't said they've written off Gal Gadot yet. I think they should keep her on board.
I think they should keep her and fire everybody else that was involved in the production of the last movie.
Yeah, 1984 was not good.
It was terrible. It was so bad. And like not even Pedro Pascal could save it.
Yeah, and it's the thing that made me the most mad about Wonder Woman 1984 is the cheetah is one of her iconic villains. That's that's Wonder Woman's bad person. And she was Kristen Wiig jumping. It was lame. It was so dumb.
It was Kristen Wiig in an episode of 2002
Smallville
Mutant X.
Yeah. It was just bad.
Like I when I finished the movie, I kept waiting for the Jay Firestone logo to pop up, like the whole show was filmed in Montreal or something. I'm like, what the fuck is wrong with this? What? And if the argument is, it's because there's a brain drain. No, I'm sorry. It looked like the Catwoman movie.
Now, I'm not surprised we didn't see anything with Keanu Reeves and Constantine, because I know there was talk about that for a while.
Oh, because that will be kept under wraps until Gunn reveals it in the trailer.
Yeah, so I think
that will literally be it. And you know where he would probably pop up?
Swamp Thing. Yeah.
It would be Swamp Thing, because they want to go R-rated. They already said if they do Constantine again, it's going to be R-rated. It would be Swamp Thing going through some crazy stuff, and he's like mutating and he's becoming part of the Green and all this.
And he's the post-credit scene.
And not post-credit scene, or if he's going to be in more than just the post-credit, in the trailer, I forget the character's name of turns into Swamp Thing. It's the Doctor, whatever.
Yeah.
And he's like, oh, what's happening to me? Oh my God. Like if he does one of those things, like the full on, like what's happening to me, you'll just hear Constantine go, I'll tell you what's happening.
Yeah.
And you'll just hear Keanu's voice and you won't see anything.
Yeah. I mean, honestly, DC wasted a lot of time with Zack Snyder. This ship should have begun to have been righted when Wonder Woman came out.
The problem with Snyder is he is a terrible visual style to everything. Everything looks like a plastic sheen, and it doesn't make it look like a comic book. It doesn't matter if you pose a few things in the comic book. Everything he ever produces, even The Watchmen was bad for this, has the look of a slightly orange plastic saran wrap on everything.
The movies of his,
bad.
the movies of his I will defend is Watchmen, because I really enjoy that one.
Try rewatching it. It's very stiff.
I like it still, because I watched it last year. I also do like 300. And I forget,
I hated 300.
Was he involved in James Gunn's Dawn of the Dead? Did he direct that?
He did. Well, it's not James Gunn's Dawn. He directed.
What am I thinking of then?
He directed Dawn of the Dead.
Okay, yeah, that one. I do like those three of his, but it's nothing past 2010 that I like. Everything past Watchmen, it just gets progressively worse. I mean, even Man of Steel, I've tried to go back and watch that, and it's hard. Sucker Punch looked cool, but it looked like a music video.
This is his problem. He doesn't know how to shoot actual interesting shots.
Yeah.
Everything looks stilted. And here's the worst part. You can get by a visual style that doesn't necessarily work or clashes, because that's a very subjective thing. He doesn't know how to direct the actors to get good performances.
Now, I will say I watched Zack Snyder's Justice League, and I think I reviewed it last year. I didn't mind it. The problem is it was a little too long, it was a little too convoluted, and it wanted to do too much with what it had to work with.
Did anything in that movie make you have a smile on your face? Did anything in that movie make you go, I want to see the next movie?
I can say yes, but there are two caveats to that. I will say this, and I feel terrible for saying it out loud. I liked the Ezra Miller Flash parts in it because I thought it made him a little bit more interesting.
Well, that was also filmed like
later,
7 or 8 years ago, before they went completely crazy.
Yeah, and I did like the dark side stuff, but you don't lay down the groundwork for Apocalypse and Darkseid and the anti-life equation because he's not Thanos. And what I mean by that is the Marvel Cinematic Universe took years to build up. Yes, they introduced him in the Avengers, but they laid out the groundwork. You can't just drop a character that big without, it takes time.
Also, Marvel movies make you feel like you're in the movie. It's an immersive thing. The color scheme and everything is very grounded and realistic.
They just pick
better
directors.
Nothing in it feels fake. Better directors, better visual style, better choices of shots. The shots that were zoomed out or zoomed in are the right shots to be doing that. Snyder stuff is like a series of storyboards.
Yeah.
And they don't really mesh. And look at the new Batman movie compared to that.
Matt Reeves,
it looked like it's a lived-in real world that I could believe I'm in.
Yeah.
Nothing in any of Snyder's movies feel like you could be there because they don't look real.
Yeah.
Look at the Batman v Superman.
Mm-hmm.
It looked like a series of video game shots. It didn't look like something that was a real lived-in world. Man of Steel, horrific fast motion fighting with like Nintendo 64 icons fighting each other because they couldn't animate it fast enough to make it look good. Everything he touched looked like shit.
Yeah.
So yet if you take like a single still frame, everything in there looks like it makes a good poster, but nothing makes it feel like a good movie. Watchmen had a bit of a better balance, I'll admit that.
Mm-hmm.
But Watchmen suffered from the problem of the dialogue being stilted because he can't get good performances. He's somebody who really shouldn't be involved in movies at all. And I don't know how he like lucked his way up into that position because 300 was visually striking. It still wasn't a good movie.
Yeah, it's true.
Was visually striking.
Yep, I'll agree to that.
So, I mean, I'm glad that he's gone, and there's a lot of people that will try to defend him, and it'd be like, they'll say all the outside factors, like the problems he had and tragedies with his family.
Mm-hmm.
I don't care. I care about him as the human being, and he went through a lot of horrible shit.
But him as the artist,
doesn't excuse that you're bad at your job.
Yeah, I mean,
we don't give you a pass when you wasted billions of dollars, and more importantly, now that I'm 36 and getting closer to middle age, you wasted 10 years of my fucking life to try to make these movies, and they were garbage.
Mm-hmm.
Don't wait. I'm not going to wait another 10 years.
Yeah, like
so like this, like if James Gunn's 10-year plan turns out to be shit, I'm done with DC because I don't want to be 50 something years old waiting for when they're going to be good.
Yeah, like DC, they definitely have stumbled out of the gate several times. Their TV stuff even started to falter in the last couple of years.
So Flash seasons 1 through 4, you could even argue through 5, are some of the best superhero TV shows ever made. Arrow had 2 seasons that were good. I think it was season 4 and 7.
Mm-hmm.
There was one with Dolph Lundgren as a bad guy, and it was pretty good. And then everything else was utter garbage.
Legends of Tomorrow?
Legends of Tomorrow is fun garbage. There's a few fun moments, but it's very meta. And if you want that show done right, you watch Doom Patrol. And if you want like a few silly moments, there's some silly, fun moments there, but it's very much the low budget Kmart crap.
Mm-hmm.
It's very playing up to the audience, but it's still enjoyable. Everything else, Black Lightning, garbage. Absolute horrible written. The actors were all wasted. They're all decent actors in given horrible material. Supergirl should have never been made.
I like Supergirl, but
it was so bad. It was even worse when they moved it from CBS over.
That's, I think, when things changed for me. Like, I've seen a couple of episodes and I've liked it, but that being said, I think you waste certain potential within that kind of universe.
Batwoman.
I love
the less said about that garbage, the better.
Again, I liked parts of Batwoman, but I wanted more.
Well, guess what? It looked like a fucking Snyder movie.
Yeah.
So it was unwatchable. It was so. And after, first of all, the first actress to play her was
Ruby
boring.
Something. Yeah. See, she
was boring.
I liked her in the costume, but I didn't like when.
Yeah.
I don't like the second actress. And
no,
nothing against her as a person or her portrayal. I just didn't like the stories that were being told.
That's the problem. They ended up losing some of the writers too.
Yeah.
So when I say it's crap, I mean it was unwatchable garbage. Like, and then you see other stuff like Gotham. I couldn't stand. Titans is fuck Batman. No, and then what was the other one? Stargirl or whatever. That's okay, but again, that was on a different network.
Amazon, yeah.
Anything that it was on Origin, or was it DC whatever universe, and then it moved over. But anything that Berlanti worked on that wasn't the first 3 or 4 seasons of Flash, it's been hot garbage. Everything has been going downhill for them. They have one consistent show, and that was Doom Patrol, and it just got canceled after this latest season. And it's like, okay, I get why they canceled it, but I felt like maybe they would keep that show running now that Gunn was involved, and it had a feel like a Gunn show. But I get maybe that it was just the budget, whatever was happening. Peacemaker's out, though Peacemaker's great too, obviously. But like I felt like maybe Peacemaker and that would be paired together and they'd stay a little longer. But I'm actually happy they're cleaning house. Like, it's for people that are whining or complaining or they're worried. It's like, no, it can't really get worse than it already was. And if you were really enjoying it, I feel bad. Like, I'm sorry that your favorite shows are gone, but I do think that they were almost all objectively bad. So I like, this is kind of the only way. You have to go with a clean slate and keep a couple things that we're doing well. Like, there would be no reason to cancel the Matt Reeves movies.
No,
because they were that strong.
Like,
aren't we getting Joker 2 as well?
Yes, so we are getting those two. As I said during the article, we are getting Peacemaker season 2. Just later, we're getting Amanda Waller's show. Okay, I'm cool with that. That's just more Task Force X. Cool. I'm totally fine with that. And we're going to get those characters from Peacemaker that aren't John Cena. Like, I watched Black Adam recently, and they had the one girl from Peacemaker. So, all right, cool. I think it was Harcourt was in it, and the guy with the beard, I want to say, were like in it. So, all right, fine. As long as they keep the parts that worked, I'm fine with it. It's going to be an interesting DCU going forward. Hopefully it's more successful. So, final story this week, and this is a follow-up to something that we've been following for quite some time. This story comes courtesy of Kotaku.com. Activision did nothing wrong. We'll pay $35 million in settlement. This is the Call of Duty publisher's biggest settlement to date with federal regulators. So Activision Blizzard will pay the Securities and Exchange Commission $35 million to settle charges it violated workplace misconduct reporting rules and whistleblower protections. The Call of Duty publisher admits no wrongdoing in the case when it comes to less than 2 years after a bombshell lawsuit by California regulators alleged years of sexual harassment and discrimination at the company. Today's SEC order states that Activision Blizzard, quote, lacked controls and procedures to properly collect and analyze employee complaints of workplace misconduct. As a result, the company's management, quote, lacked sufficient information to even know if there were certain issues at the company that required public disclosure to investors. In addition, the SEC order also claims Activision Blizzard used separation agreements for departing employees that required them to notify the company if they were contacted for information by the SEC that would be a violation of whistleblower protections. Quote, the SEC order finds that Activision Blizzard failed to implement necessary controls to collect and review employee complaints about workplace misconduct, which it left without the means to determine whether larger issues existed that needed to be disclosed to investors. Director of the SEC's Denver regional office, Jason Burt, said in a press release. While the company didn't admit to the charges, it did agree to a cease and desist order in addition, to the $35 million penalty. Quote, we are pleased to amicably resolve this matter, Activision Media Relations Joe Chisnat told Kotaku in a statement. As the order recognizes, we have enhanced our disclosure processes with regard to workplace reporting, updated our separation contract language. We did so as a part of the continuing commitment to operational excellence and transparency. Activision Blizzard.
I'm going to pause you right there. Separation contract, that's like NDA stuff, right?
Yeah.
But that shouldn't be even existing if you are leaving on your own accord, or if you're being dismissed for
cause or whatever,
being laid off, or anything. That should be illegal. They should not be allowed to tell you what you're allowed to tell the government.
Yeah. So the article continues on let me see, where did I leave off? Oh, yeah. Activision Blizzard is confident in its workplace disclosure. That amicable resolution is nearly double the $18 million settlement Activision agreed to pay the Equal Employment Opportunity Commission over a federal harassment and discrimination lawsuit, the funds from which will only be paid out to victims of the company's workplace culture who were employed after 2016. Activision CEO Bobby Kotick made roughly $155 million in 2020. Both landmark settlements come after a November 2021 investigation by the Wall Street Journal, which reported that Kotick was aware of workplace misconduct, including a settlement for an incident of alleged rape, but failed to disclose it to Activision board of directors. A subsequent report by the Wall Street Journal claimed Kotaku continued to try and hide how many employees were fired at the company in the wake of the allegations being made public. The company has called these allegations false and furiously pushed back against the original Department of Fair Employment and Housing lawsuit that kicked everything off. Activision tried to get the case thrown out last year, but a judge denied the request and continues to make its way through the Los Angeles Superior Court. Quote, when the company received complaints where we responded to them appropriately and after extensive and thorough review of workplace policies and procedures, workplace practices, compliance, and company data performed by the external company advisors, including former EEOC Chair Gilbert Casas, Skedar Arps, William Hale, Paul Hastings, CDF Labor Law LLP, the board concluded there were never widespread or systematic harassment, retaliation, or discrimination at the company, end quote. Chris Nat told Kotaku in a statement, the board and advisors also concluded there was no evidence that the company's senior executives ignored the complaints when they were reported. The fallout from the lawsuit and subsequent news reports, however, reportedly paved the way for Microsoft to swoop in and make a deal to acquire Activision for $69 billion. That sale is currently facing an antitrust lawsuit by the Federal Trade Commission. And that's the end of the article. Money can buy so much, can it?
Very, very long article to basically say that Activision is still lying.
Yeah, something is wrong somewhere.
Everything that they're saying. Well, no, that's what the FCC said is what we found is you illegally tried to make contracts with your people that were leaving that you would withhold their severance pay if they talked to us.
Mm-hmm.
That's illegal.
Yeah, you can't do that.
They now have charged them with that, and their response is, no, we didn't, even though they have proof.
Yeah, so here's $35 million, please go away.
Yeah, here's $35 million, please go away, and Bobby Kotick makes more money than all the other employees in the entire company combined to do nothing but sit there and do evil.
Yeah, like
he legitimately does things that are evil.
he's
And,
basically a dumber Lex Luthor.
Like I don't get how, like, I know the argument is, it's like, well, it's all relative. He doesn't think he's bad or evil. How does he not know that he's evil?
Well, he made some pretty strong there were some pretty strong allegations. I remember we reported on, like, he said something to an airline stewardess or something a couple of years ago, and
his secretary
he called her, said, "I'm going to cut off your head," or something weird or something.
He called her at home, and when she didn't answer fast enough, he said, "Answer your phone," or something. I'm paraphrasing.
Yeah.
But basically, answer your phone,
or you'll be fired, or something.
No, answer your phone, or I'll fucking kill you.
Yeah, it was something really outrageous.
Or something about how, or that he could have her killed and get away with it,
or something like that. Yeah,
and that was apparently a joke.
Yeah,
that he yelled at her.
Yeah, and you don't treat people like that. You just don't.
And she taped it, recorded it on her voicemail, and then brought that to the government, and that was part of the evidence. And Activision's response was, "You shouldn't have been allowed to record our conversation."
Yeah, like, no. How about you don't be an asshole to people?
How about you don't threaten to kill me?
Yeah, like,
and the response is, "Well, you took a joke wrong." No, it was a threat. It was a threat to kill her.
Yeah,
and no apology afterwards, and no joking or laughing.
Yeah, like it. I don't think the deal is going to happen with Microsoft and that.
I think people think it's going to be easy to go through. I think they're going to force them to break it up.
So yeah, something's going to happen.
And what I think is going to happen is he's going to somehow get out with money,
golden parachute,
and he's going to get out with money. And then what's going to happen is he's not going to realize that somebody in the IRS or somebody is going to be keeping a file on him. This is one of those weird situations where you might find in 10 years he's in prison for something else, because somebody doesn't get that rich without cutting a bunch of corners on his own.
Yeah, something like there's something here that we're going to say smells a little funny.
Smells fucky. It smells fucky. The air is fucky. Anyway, outside of that, here's what I think is going to happen. If it goes through, I'll be very surprised, because it's too contentious right now. This is a worse mangled legal mess than Rogers buying Shaw here. Like, it's a little more straightforward, even if it is almost as evil here. But what's going to probably happen is they're going to break it off. It's not going to be a split like Blizzard and Activision get split into two different divisions again, like I initially thought. I think they're going to break up the studios individually.
That wouldn't surprise me, actually.
Because they're going to piecemeal the studios out. And what's going to happen is Microsoft is going to want Treyarch, Treyarch Infinity Ward, and is it Raven or Sledgehammer? They'll want those four. And they'll probably also want, I forget which of the Blizzard studios it is that does World of Warcraft and which one does Diablo. They're going to want World of Warcraft, but they're probably not going to be allowed to keep it. Or they might be able to just get the Activision, like the Call of Duty studios and then all the small middleware companies, all of the other studios like Toys for Bob, the former studios that were was it Neversoft, and there's a couple others, and then the other Blizzard studios that make all the other Blizzard games. Those are all going to be sold off to Sony and everybody else, and they might have to make a hard choice. Do you want all of the Call of Duty studios, or do you only get to have two of them if you also want to have World of Warcraft? Microsoft is desperate for their MMO that they can have, that they can get all that monthly income from. And they can't make one themselves. They can't even make a live service game themselves that doesn't suck or have major problems. So they're not going to be able to buy Final Fantasy 14, and they're not going to be able to buy that division of Square Enix, because that's the division keeping Square Enix afloat. So they won't buy that, or they won't even allow the takeover. And it's very hard for an American company to buy a Japanese company. So what's the next best thing? Get WoW.
Yeah.
So that's what they want it for. People think, they want Diablo and they want that. No, they want Call of Duty and World of Warcraft. They don't give a shit about the other IPs, because they don't even touch half of the IPs they own. Look what happened to Rare. Do they make anything with their stuff? Oh, except for, like, now they said that they're making, didn't they say no? They didn't say they were making anything with Banjo, but they were Perfect Dark is supposed to be coming up. Well, now there's talk that Perfect Dark's having to start over production again.
Yeah.
So again, they've owned Rare for what, 15 years,
Mm-hmm.
and they've done like 2 or 3 games ever with them, and other than Viva Pinata. So, you know what I mean? Like they sit on so many things. They don't want all those other game studios. They don't give a shit about Crash Bandicoot or any of the other properties that they own, or Tony Hawk. They want Call of Duty and they want World of Warcraft. That's it. And they saw this and went, WoW has made $100 billion in 10 or whatever that number is in 20 years.
Mm-hmm.
We want that. And we want Call of Duty. And I think what's going to happen is Sony will end up getting a few studios on the sly that are probably not Infinity Ward and probably not Treyarch, but they might get the other two. And that's how they're going to get their first-person shooter games made. And then somebody else is going to get, like, I would assume that Sony would probably want the studio internally that makes Diablo.
Mm-hmm.
And then every other studio is going to get bought up by Embracer Group, and they're going to be part of THQ.
So, yeah, I like...
Because here's the thing. If all those small studios get bought up in the small, and if they buy the IPs, we're going to get like 10 million Crash Bandicoot games, and they're all probably going to be pretty good.
Yeah. Or I would be happy for a single player or some kind of a squad-based Overwatch single player game. Like, because Overwatch has an awesome lore. Tell me about it.
What if THQ buys those one or two of the studios from them, and then we were like, oh, we're going to get a new Tony Hawk game. Oh, that's really cool. And then it's like, it's Tony Hawk, but it has all the other, like, you can play as characters from other games that are now owned by THQ.
Yeah, that'd be cool.
Because like that was something that I never understood with the Tony Hawk franchise. They owned all this stuff. Like, why couldn't you play as Crash?
Yeah, like, I know in terms of characters you could play in the Tony Hawk franchise, I'm a pretty big fan. I
remember Spider-Man.
Yeah, you could play as Spider-Man, Darth Maul, you could play as Phil from Bam's family. You could play as there were a couple other characters that were a little bit strange and out there.
But you know what I mean? They never leveraged the amount of properties they own.
Yeah, like there's so much, like, why did they never put, like, say, Captain Price in a game, like from Call of Duty? That would have been kind of fun. Like, yeah, there's so much stuff that just could have been, like, hell, even when they did the remaster of Tony Hawk 1 and 2, you could have put Ghost from Call of Duty in there. That would have been awesome.
Am I crazy? But was Jack Black in one of them?
He was a voice, I want to say. I think he was a voice, but I'm not 100% sure on that.
Okay, because I know they had a couple movie celebrities, I think, in the first few games.
Yeah, it's been so long. I remember you could play as Wolverine in one. Yeah, it's been a while.
But you know what I mean? Like, why didn't they do, like, that's just my personal, again, tinfoil hat. I think they're going to, if they break them up, it's not going to be the split direct down the center of the two companies.
Mm-hmm.
Because they're going to want a couple properties from the other. I think they're going to piecemeal out the studios. And if not the studios, they might even say something like, you can keep the studios, which they don't want if they can't have the IPs. And they might go, but we're going to make you piecemeal out your IPs. Yeah. And that is something that'll make Microsoft panic.
Yeah, because there's a lot of good IPs there.
Yes, and they love sitting on those IPs and doing nothing with them. But the reason for that is they'd rather sit on them than have somebody else make money off of them.
It's true.
That is old software tech strategies. And for a while we thought they weren't going to do that, and they're starting to rear their ugly head with that style of management again.
Yeah.
So, and with all these layoffs, like, they just laid off 10,000, 15,000, 20,000 employees, and they're still trying to purchase this company for $69 billion. I would make the argument, if you're losing so much friggin' money and you had to fire 10% or 5% of your workforce, why are you still trying to purchase this?
I just had this thought. So one of the games that I follow quite closely is 343 and Halo Infinite. They lost 95 employees plus. Now, there's talk of them doing the next Halo in Unreal Engine because they're switching from the Slipstream engine, which they've been using for like 20 years.
Oh, I'll tell you, they want Infinity Ward or somebody to make.
Yeah, like an Infinity Ward Call of Duty, or not an Infinity Ward Halo. That's interesting.
But how about this? Or Infinity Ward, or which one is the one that did Black Ops, the Cold War?
Sledgehammer, maybe?
Was that Treyarch?
That might have been Treyarch or Sledgehammer. I can't remember.
Because that's the one that's my favorite, right?
Yeah.
Like, whatever studio did that, instead of making it about Master Chief, you want to make them have ease them in. Okay, you make a single player with some multiplayer so that you ease people in, but you have them and you make it about the
ODSTs again. Yeah, do another ODST sequel. That would sell.
Do an ODST sequel that takes place in the Halo, somewhere between Halo 5, Guardians, and Infinite.
Yeah, that would sell.
And you make it. You make it with a 4 or 5 hour campaign, and it's mostly multiplayer to show, hey, here's what we can do with the franchise.
Yeah, I would pay for that, because there was talk that now Halo Infinite has no single player content planned. It's all multiplayer stuff.
Oh, I had it sitting on my drive forever.
Yeah,
deleted. I deleted it as soon as I heard that they had no plans anymore, because what was that lie? The lie of we're going to have single player content every year for 10 years.
Mm-hmm.
And we got it once, and they never even gave us, like, there's a whole section of the map that's just never going to be filled out.
Yeah, like one of the things they did, because this is something where I've got a bit of expertise in, like they're now doing seasons, which are very anemic in content. You get a 2-minute cutscene with your custom Spartan, which is okay, cool, fine, but you don't get a lot of things. Like last season was something called Lone Wolf, and they bring back a banished AI thing, and okay, cool, but it doesn't really build anything. And there was just an event where you could have got a bunch of free cosmetics, but you had to do a bunch of shit. I normally play those. I didn't even bother. That should tell you something, because I used to play Infinite almost every day. I was I didn't suck at multiplayer. And hell, I'm not even playing Call of Duty that much anymore.
We never ended up doing our co-op play, because what was the point?
Yeah, like we're just going back to get achievements. Like even right now, I think I'm missing 3 Spartan logs, and just I don't care enough to go back and get them. I got 95% of the achievements. You know what? I'm good. And that disappoints the fuck out of me, because I wanted so much more out of it. And with the whole Activision thing, even this year's Call of Duty, they've delayed season 2 of Modern Warfare 2. It comes out on the 15th. Okay, that's fine. That's great. But it's just not enough to get 2 or 3 multiplayer maps every 8-9 weeks. It's not enough to get 1 or 2 new guns and some new cosmetics. I mean, they did something with the World Cup this year where you could get a couple of the really big players in multiplayer bundles. Okay, fine. I don't know who any of these people are.
We're at a point where if you're not going to be Apex Legends or
even they canceled their mobile game, and they canceled a single player Titanfall Apex Legends game.
If you can't keep pace with Fortnite, don't bother making a live service game.
Yeah, I mean, even Destiny 2, it has a very dedicated player base.
Oh, and it's dwindling because people are getting bored.
Yeah, there's nothing to do. I mean, like the raids are cool, but
people are already turning to Sony and saying, "Hey, you bought Bungie. What are they doing? Where's the next game? Or where's the content?"
Yeah, I mean, like my problem with Destiny 2, and I know we're getting off on a bit of a tangent here, is the end game content, unless you've been grinding since when that game first came out, unless you have the top gear and the highest light level and you have a dedicated squad to raid with. In fact, JT brought this up in our little gaming chat. He's like, guys, how hard is it to get into Destiny 2 right now? I'm like, unless you've got a dedicated squad that can do the raids, you're going to have a really bad time, because you need people to raid with. And even in Call of Duty right now, they have a raid you can do, but you have to have 3 people minimum. One of you has to have a key you can earn from the DMZ to get into Building 21, which is some offsite mercenary thing. And it's very fucking hard. And all you get is a new operator skin and some blueprint guns. That's not enough for me.
The last live service game that was with squads and playing that you could conceivably get into
Mm-hmm.
and get into fairly easily, and it wasn't like a big barrier of entry, was probably the Division 1 and 2.
You could play with a squad if you played Rainbow Six, but that's
it's such an
hardcore.
elite-
Yeah, but that's hardcore competitive.
That's what I'm saying.
Yeah.
If you're like for JT, it would basically be the Division. That's it, and that's multi-year-old Ubisoft title.
Yeah.
And that's it. There really isn't anything else that you can just get into without already being an expert.
Yeah, and to find groups, you can look on Twitter, you can look on Reddit, you can look on Discord, but it's hard to find people to play with that you gel with right away. I mean, the only multiplayer game that I play with where I don't know everybody is Pokemon Go, and that's a mobile game.
Incorrect. You do your dailies on Far Cry 6 still, don't you?
No, I stopped doing that like 6 months ago.
Thank God.
That game
okay.
And even that game, once I saw what was being recycled into it, I didn't even buy the latest DLC because it was this roguelike shit, and I can't stand that.
Yep. And again, we don't know what's coming later this year because there's still a lot of uncertainties. It wasn't part of our stories here, but we'll sort of pigeonhole it in for the last minute or so here.
Mm-hmm.
All of those live service games are shutting down. Back 4 Blood's gone, or going to be gone. That was the one that was made by the people as a spiritual successor to
Left 4 Dead, wasn't it?
Left 4 Dead, yeah.
Turtle Rock or something, right?
Yeah, that's gone.
Knockout City's shutting down in a few weeks.
The Rumbleverse is gone.
In like a few weeks, actually, like the end of February.
A whole bunch of basically everything that was put out. The only one that somehow has slipped under the radar was Outriders.
Yep. Avengers is shutting down in March.
Yep.
Although that being said, you can still play online, and they're going to give you every single cosmetic in the game for free, which is great
for the next. Yeah, but only for a few months before the whole game shuts off.
No, you can still access the servers for years. They're just not going to fix anything. Because I did look into it. So if you
know what's going to happen then, there's going to be a game-breaking bug that gets introduced, and then they have to shut it down.
That's what they said. They said if something breaks, we'll try and fix it, but we're not putting any more resources at it.
So basically, Outriders is it.
Yeah, like
everything else is gone, and that's a Square Enix one that's going to be gone. People Can Fly. That'll be gone real soon.
Oh yeah.
And then the Final Fantasy one already shut down for Soldier.
Yep.
And then so those are all gone. The Resident Evil one is doing horrible.
I don't even remember anybody ever playing it. I think our friend Connell played it for a while.
And we know people in like the streamer space where they've tried it, and that they're like, when you have people that stream like a ton of those types of games, and whenever that name gets brought up, they just cackle with laughter. It's like, that's not something you usually want to do, if you want to stay on good terms with a game company. But when it's every single streamer just laughs at Capcom.
Do you remember when the Evil Dead game came out and it had such hype behind it? And even it's getting some new DLC fairly soon. Yeah. I can't recall anybody who's ever talked about it in the last few months.
Or the Predator one.
Oh, that game was hot garbage after its first round of content release.
So they're all basically shutting down.
Aliens Fire Team, it's hard to get a stable connection to people.
And the other Alien one, that's like the top-down shooter one, it's not doing well either. What's the other one? Godfall is basically all but dead. It went free to play on PlayStation.
Yep.
They're all basically done, like that whole, and yet you have a few companies that still think they're going to make ones like that. They're going to be successful. I'm a little worried about Suicide Squad because it's revealed that it's basically looking a lot like Marvel's Avengers. We'll see if they backtrack or change anything.
But I think people are still playing Gotham Knights, aren't they?
Yes,
because it just got some DLC recently with like the Starro.
Yes, and it got some patches to make the PC version a lot more responsive. So there's that, but like, we've had some good games come out recently that are single player, and I think the trend, people are starting to see that there is only room for about 2 or 3 of these. Like, even Overwatch 2 isn't doing well anymore.
Yeah, which sucks
because it's Fortnite. That's it. That is it as far as what people are watching. It's what the kids want to watch. That's it. So we'll see. There's going to be more games that come, but hopefully this trend changes things around, and they start realizing they have to start putting money into making good games and not just games that will quickly try to capture an audience.
One that I'm really scared about because it was revealed at the Game Awards is that new Transformers game. I want it to be good.
Yeah,
got a bad
the new Transformers game and the RoboCop one.
Yeah.
Now, the other one, the newest game coming that is not appearing to be, I was worried it was going to be this live service thing, is that, what's that one?
Redfall?
Yes.
Yeah.
So that apparently, I figure you and I will probably do a co-op through that because it's looking more like it's Far Cry style, but with vampires and crazy. So we'll see. But again, who knows if it's going to take off, right? Like, are people done with that style of game? Because there are ebbs and flows, right? So I know this has gone on a lot longer than we expected, but like I think we're at a crisis point, man.
Yeah, like multiplayer games, you're really going to have to fight hard to capture an audience. Even Warzone player counts are down, and that's the battle royale for the competitive scene. Halo, I know there's a new championship season starting soon.
Does the general public even remember that Valorant exists?
I see people talking about it now, but not many. It's a niche audience. And what was that other game? There was another game that was like Valorant, but wasn't.
Oh, was it Battleborn or
that shut down years ago, and that's a hot blip on the radar nobody talks about. Yeah, it's just
there's a few others, and again, we got Street Fighter and some others coming out that'll bring people back to multiplayer gaming, but spinning this all the way around to what the story was about, basically fuck Bobby Kotick and their lies.
Pretty much. End story. So anyway, we're going to take a break here on ThisWeekInGeek.net, and I think we're going to take a look at the latest entry in the Fire Emblem series here on This Week in Geek. So this is Alex's review of Fire Emblem Engage.
Yes.
All right, so we'll be back, guys, right after this with the weird news as we begin to close out the show. We'll be back, guys, right after this.
Alex here, and our friends over at Nintendo sent a review copy of Fire Emblem Engage for us to check out. Now, full disclosure, we received it on release day, so that's why this review has taken a little bit to get to us, because it's a pretty involving game. We're looking at, somewhere in the 40-plus hour mark for a full playthrough, and I am about 70% through, I would say. Usually we try to get a complete playthrough, like full story with absolutely all main story beats completed, maybe even most side missions done, if there are any on a playthrough, to do a review. But that would push this review out another week or so, because it is absolutely a blast to play, but it is something that wants to take up a lot of your time. And in the spirit of expediency, I have enough of an idea of exactly where this is going and the elements that are involved, and I sort of know exactly where it is. There's few game series out there where you can trust your instincts, and this is one of the ones that you generally know what you're getting once you're into it. Once you get past the first couple hours in tutorials, you'll know exactly where you are. So that being said, where does this game stand in comparison to previous entries in the series? We have reviewed the last mainline entry, as well as the warrior style game. Birdman took that on last time, and this is an interesting game in that the concept behind it is you end up pulling in characters from previous games in the franchise to assist you in battle and be part of that sort of fusion style attacks. It's really interesting. I don't want to spoil any of the story and the beats, because there's a lot of it that's going to be callbacks and surprises for fans of the series. That being said, if you're somebody completely new going into it, or don't have a ton of history with the franchise, you don't necessarily need to know anything going into it. It just enhances the experience overall. If you're looking for a, fantastically deep and engaging story, pun intended there, it's not going to be, the Shakespearean, fantastic, deep cut philosophical story. This is your standard fun Nintendo style RPG, if that makes any sense. As far as mechanics are concerned with it, the weapon triangle, makes a return, and it's very well easy to figure out. Rock, paper, scissors is the essential thing. Certain units are better at at beating certain units than others. The combat system is deep, but easy enough to get into. You're eased in, you get it. They're very good at creating a tutorial for people that are newcomers to it. It's not overly difficult. They've done really good scaling in the difficulty, because in the past the series was known for being very difficult, and then the last game or two is where they finally really started letting it tune to a more wider audience. As far as visuals are concerned, it's probably the best looking game in the franchise. There's some aliasing happening in the background and certain things. Characters up front look great. It's probably the best that they've ever rendered the models of their characters. Some of the backgrounds are looking kind of GameCube-y. We're hitting the limits of what the Nintendo Switch could do, so they're having to get very smart in how they process things, and loading times are pretty good. It's not overly excessive or problematic. Streaming assets are pretty good. There's not a crazy amount of pop-in or anything. It seems very, very well optimized, which is a really, really nice thing to see. As far as any downsides to it, or anything that I would consider a con, it's on a lot of the characters appear to be a little more one note, and that can happen when you have a large, wide array of playable characters or NPCs that come in. They're just not as fleshed out as other games could be sometimes in the same genre. But you know what? That doesn't really matter in the grand scheme of things, because the whole package here is fantastic. It's just a really good game to pick up. You can pick it up and play it for like an hour or two, or you can pick it up, and do a marathon play of it, which is something I usually do. We just, scheduling didn't account for that. Didn't really have the ability to do that at this time. But again, even with playing it a few hours or so at a time, an hour here, an hour there each day, in about a week and a half, I ended up at about the 70-ish% mark probably for completion, and I'll continue to do so. And if there's some drastic change where it just completely spirals out of control for me, we'll talk about it. But I'm not foreseeing that. I'm foreseeing a very happy ending to this, in that I played most of this game with a smile on my face, which is not something I do as often as you'd think. I just have, good cozy feels with it. So for that, and by the way, the voice acting is pretty top notch. Some really, really good voice acting and direction in there. I wanted to make sure I mentioned that before we got out of here. So, this is a good entry point for people that are brand new to the franchise, in that it's just probably the most polished release they've ever had. But it's also a really good entry point or not entry point, but a really good, entry in the franchise for super fans as well. So I think everybody's going to get something out of it. Is it a recommend for a buy? It's a buy for any RPG or tactical fan, for sure. And it's also a buy for somebody who maybe, for their family, they have kids, maybe started tactical RPGs with maybe the Mario Kingdom Battle, or Mario & Rabbids Sparks of Hope. That being really your first entry, or it's a really good entry point for kids getting into, tactical games, especially if they're Mario fans, and they're maybe ready to upgrade to a more robust and complete system. That would be a good stepping stone. So if you're somebody who is unsure, but you liked Mario & Rabbids, both of the versions that came out, the one that came out years ago and then the one that came out just this past fall, and you're looking for maybe something a little more, and now you're like, okay, let's dip my toes into something that has the same aesthetic feel, the goodness there, but has more of a challenge and more of a traditional JRPG element to it. If that's the case, it's well worth picking up for you.
Go crazy?
Don't mind if I do.
Human sacrifice, dogs and cats living together.
All right, guys, welcome back to ThisWeekInGeek.net. It's time to talk about the weird, strange, and unusual things that happened around the planet this past week. We're going to start things off with a sudden death. Actually, we have two death articles. One's a little bit strange. The other one is like, oh, God. And this one is a little bit bizarre. And this was actually brought to my attention from my friend Jordan, who I do stuff with at the Guelph Storm Trackers. His partner Rachel brought this to my attention. And the sudden death of Quebec's Fred Mamont casts a shadow on Groundhog Day. Val d'Espoir Child took the job over Thursday, predicting 6 more weeks of winter. Fred Lamormont, the province's famous furry oracle in Val d'Espoir, Quebec, was found dead overnight Thursday, hours before he had been expected to predict whether it would be an early or late spring. The organizer of Thursday's Groundhog Day event in Val d'Espoir announced the somber news following some 40 minutes of festivities, including music and dancing. Quote, "In life, the only things that are certain is that nothing is certain," a serious Roberto Blondin said in front of a crowd of awaiting spectators. Well, this year it's true. It's true and it's unfortunate. I announce to you the death of Fred. Blondin said he found the lifeless animal overnight when he tried to wake him. He said he had, quote, no vital signs and figures Fred passed away in late fall or early December during hibernation at the age of 9. Changing the tone, Blondin said Fred loved children.
Wait. He didn't know he was dead, even though he'd been dead for months.
Well, he was in hibernation, so he wouldn't.
He wouldn't have decayed.
I don't. Well, I guess if he's in an outside enclosure, or if he's in a very
and it's cold enough, yeah, it's true. But sorry, I'm sorry to break into your story, but I watched the video. Mm-hmm. What you read was much more eloquent than what he actually said on the live mic.
Yeah.
Did you hear what he said on the live mic?
No. What did he say?
He comes out, there's the CBC is there, it's being broadcast, and there's all these children in the front row. And they're waiting. They're like, he didn't tell the organizers that he was dead. Oh. So they're all there, and they're all like, they're having the kids sing a song about the marmot, and they're all singing and here, and basically the translation, you can see the subtitles, is here he's come to get him out, to have him come out and say hello to all of you children. And then the guy walks out and he just goes Mort Fred, but he's just 2 words, Fred's dead. He doesn't even say anything to the children. He just walks out, Fred's dead, and the crowd, silence.
Wow.
And then they wait for like 30 seconds, don't know what to do. They said, but the show must go on. And then he reaches into a cage where you'd think that Fred would be in it. And I go, oh God, he's going to pull out his corpse. And they pull out one of the lamest looking stuffed animals and shook him. And then they were talking to the stuffed animal, which looked like a taxidermied groundhog, and they're like, oh, he did see a shadow, and the kids in the front row are just like wide-eyed, like what is happening? And I couldn't stop laughing because that aired live on TV.
So,
and
sorry, go on.
Yes, and after you finish, I've got a couple things to say on it too still.
Okay, so changing the tone, Blondin said Fred loved children and would have wanted a child to fill in for him Thursday. With that, a child attending the event wearing a groundhog hat was called up to the stage, handed a stuffed toy groundhog, as you just described. He predicted 6 more weeks of winter. Renee Landreau, a spokesperson for the annual Groundhog Day event, describes herself as Fred's press agent and said everyone in the crowd was shocked to learn of the rodent's death. But he had a long, successful life for a groundhog. He replaced his father, Gros Fred, who predicted the coming of spring with greater accuracy than some weather forecasters, according to Landreau. Quote, he was awesome, Landreau said. He gave awesome services, awesome prediction, 80% success rate, but I guess it had to come to an end. There will be a new groundhog next year, Fred Jr., one of Fred's Marmont's sons, who will be ready to make his prediction in order to continue the tradition, assured Blondin. No funeral arrangements have been announced for Fred. Meanwhile, two of Canada's most famous groundhog prognosticators have made conflicting calls about spring's arrival. Ontario's Wyerton Willie has called for an early spring, while I can't even pronounce this. The one from Nova Scotia, Shobenake Sam.
That's not real. I don't recognize them. This is what I'm going to say. I recognize the French one because I get why it had to exist for Quebec.
Mm-hmm.
But really, there are two. There are only two allowed to be: Wyerton Willie for Canada,
and Puxatawny Phil,
and Puxatawny Phil for America. I don't think, because they don't have a secondary actual official language, they don't need a. I don't know what would like a Spanish one be called. Like
maybe it'd be like
what's down there?
Armadillo
like
or something?
No, it's like the name has to match.
An alligator? Fuck, I don't know.
No, like it's got to be like something Miguel. Like what would it be? Like it doesn't, like it has to be a name that sort of matches a name, like the name of a city, right?
Mm-hmm.
But they don't have one. But yeah, you recognize Puxatawny Phil, and you recognize Wyerton Willie, and I guess the Quebec one can have their own. Everybody else is fake. I'm sorry, it's not real, because the one in Wyerton, Ontario, Wyerton Willie, is the one that was recognized and shown all over the news across all of Canada.
Now,
and Quebec got their own thing. This one in Nova Scotia, that's the Kmart version.
Now, that being said, now you were mentioning about like how did they not kind of notice this? I think part of the tradition is when they wake him up from hibernation, maybe that's the part of the ceremony. Now, when I was younger, I grew up right near Wyerton, like literally 15 minutes away. And I don't recall what the ceremony entailed other than Mr. Brower came out in his ridiculous top hat and he talked to Wyerton Willie and he would make the prediction or something like that. Like, it was weird.
Well, dude, the other story I've got related to it, it's funny. I'm not going to name any names because it's a cultural thing. Like, this is such a North America thing. Like, this doesn't exist anywhere else, right? Like the whole idea of Wyerton Willie, Puxatawny Phil, it's just we could look up where it comes from or when it happened, but it's such a new colony thing here, and such a even though it's a nationwide thing in both countries, it's still a very insulated thing that people in Europe, people in Asia, people in Africa, people in South America, Australia, they have no idea what any of this is, right? Like this is such inside baseball type stuff that I remember laughing because, you know, you'd have international students in college and they wouldn't understand what was going on. And like they'd never even seen the groundhog, right? And they'd think it was like a rabbit or something, right? And they're like, oh, so is that what they're going to cook for the festival? Like I had a couple students that I went to school with, and they legitimately didn't know. And they're like, so how does it taste? And I would laugh my head off when I heard it. I'm like, what do you mean? The groundhog? We don't eat the groundhog. We just ask it what the weather's going to be like. And then I would get stares like, what's wrong with me? I'm like, yeah, I guess it is kind of weird that we're asking the groundhog what the weather's going to be like. But at the same time, that, you know, if you don't know when you're coming to an area and you see something that looks like a rabbit or some sort of thing, you're like, and rabbits, you know, people eat rabbits here too. So, but I just thought like, it's so strange that we have this. I didn't even realize that there was like the one in Nova Scotia and all that. I just thought it was, here's the one that we chose to do. We chose this small town in Ontario to represent all of Canada. And then Puxatawny is, we picked one that's going to represent all of America, and that's it.
I want to say there's one in Maine. I seem to recall that, but I'm not 100% sure of that.
Because like, that's it, right? Like, but it's like, no, I will stand by this. This is my hill to die on. We're allowed to have two. Quebec's allowed to have their own for their own reasons, but there's only two official ones. And I'm waiting for the video game or movie to come out where it's Willie and Phil have to fight to the death.
The ultimate Flash game, I'm sure.
I'll tell you, if it's cold enough, Willie's going to be the one that probably survives.
It's true. I mean, I grew up, like I said, near Wyerton and hearing all about Wyerton Willie during the summer months. And I will say, growing up near the particular family that used to care for Wyerton Willie, I don't have a lot of great things to say about the kids growing up. The brother was fine. The daughter was a very mean person, I will say. But yeah.
Well, I mean, your whole town, the entire existence of your town for over 100 years has been this rodent.
Yeah,
that's it. It's not just what you're known for. It's the only thing that your city has ever in the news or even ever heard about other than poison water.
No, that is King Carden. But yes.
Well, it's not just King Carden. It's a lot of these small towns with bad water.
Yeah, it's true. Like, I can tell you some stories, folks. If you ever want to hear about Little Birdman growing up in Grey Bruce County, I've got some stories. So our next story is a little bit more serious. It is a crime story, so I'm just going to preface that. So the headline from boingboing.net is, "To fake her own death, a beauty blogger killed her doppelganger." A German beauty blogger identified as Sharaba K allegedly killed her doppelganger who she found on Instagram to fake her own death. Sharabagan reportedly enticed the other beauty blogger, Kajira O, to meet up in, I can't pronounce the name of the town, but in Bavaria to talk shop. Then Sharabagan, I can't pronounce it.
It's like, what's that video game for the NES? The Magic of Scheherazade?
Yeah.
Oh, God, that was...
Yeah, good luck pronouncing that one.
Now, you know what? I'm going to pull up that article because I maybe can read it. Like, the German in me can do it.
Yeah, maybe because it's German, you might get it.
So,
Sharaban?
One of them is Sharaban. Sharaban. And the first blogger was
Kajira.
Khadija.
Yeah, and that name
Khadija,
that name I've actually heard because I know someone who's named that, but she's Mexican. So, I want to say, or Spanish.
So the German, it's in Bavaria, which is the province in Germany.
Yeah.
Ingolstadt.
So Sharabadan was allegedly meet up with this girl in Ingolstadt, Bavaria. I'm terrible at this. So the German person reportedly stabbed Kajira in the face dozens of times to hide her identity. Sharabadan then placed Kajira's body in her own Mercedes, parked it near her friend's house, who had been named as her accomplice. Prosecutors believe that Sharabadan K wanted to run away from trouble at home. Quote, after the investigation, it can be assumed that she wanted to go into hiding due to internal family disputes and fake her own death. Veronica Grieser of the Ingolstadt Public Prosecutor's Office told the German newspaper Bild. Sharabadan K, who was living in Munich, allegedly set up fake Instagram accounts and tried to arrange meetings with women who looked similar to her. She eventually found Kajira O, a 23-year-old Albanian an Albanian citizen who lived about 100 miles away, police said. And I'm looking at the two pictures of these two women.
They don't look that same.
Kind of in the face, but not really. I'm
not from a distance. Like, okay, this is okay.
Maybe similar hair. Maybe
it's going to sound bad, but only because I saw the movie in the last few months. You remember the movie Eraser?
Yeah.
You remember what he did? He would find somebody that looked similar, like same body weight, but not necessarily same face.
Mm-hmm.
And then to get you into witness protection, he would then take that dead person's body that looked a bit like you, and then burn it alive, or not burn it, but cover it in gasoline and burn it, so that even if the fire went out, the face would be burned enough that you could argue that it's still the same person. Depending on what she did to her, maybe you could say it was the same person, but this is full blown. This isn't like sociopath. This is psychopath.
Oh yeah.
Behavior.
This is I have a question, and I know it doesn't matter because a poor woman has died, but what was so bad at home you couldn't just leave? Just go. I mean, if it means leaving behind everything you've loved and ever known, I'm sorry, but you didn't have to kill somebody. And when I look at these two persons, this woman, for whatever reason they met up because she was another beauty blogger, and Instagram is a very big thing. In fact, there's a friend of mine who gets catfished repeatedly for terrible, terrible reasons. And, maybe this person just wanted to say, hey, let's kind of do something. And I bring up catfishing only because Instagram is full of really creepy and scary people. And
yes, very much so.
And it's unfortunate that this person had to die. I hope the Ingolstadt Police Department can bring this woman up on full charges. If they've already got her, then I hope
the Germans are efficient, if nothing else.
Yeah.
So they will be thorough.
Yeah, I'm so sorry this like had to happen, but
It's horrible. It's horrible.
But
it is something that you'd hear almost in like a Lifetime movie.
yeah, like it doesn't even seem real. Like looking at these two people, I can see some similarities in the hair, maybe a little bit in the face, but the eyes and the lips look completely different.
But like, if this was 1998, and I heard you reading this, I'd be like, so when is that Natasha Henstridge movie coming?
Yeah, it's weird. It totally sounds like this. It seems like one of those rip-off movies you'd hear on the O Network, and it's like
it's not even the O. Like, yeah, if we're talking back then,
CBS movie of the week
would have been decent budget TNT cable movie.
Yeah, like it's so out there and
starring Shannon Tweed.
Yeah, like it's so. I'm like I said, I'm so sorry.
I'm sorry, but you're right. This is for sure a weird news article.
Yeah, like
because it's so out there.
Yeah, like using Instagram to murder people, and this is something else I found out about.
Also, you're in social media. You're telling me that you're crazed fans, and if you're a beauty blogger, you have
weird
the obsessed fans.
Oh yeah,
the fans that notice when two of your hairs are turning gray in the back of your head in one shot.
There was
so how do you not think that they're gonna notice that it's not you?
There was something I watched. There's a YouTube channel I've been watching for a little while. I think it's called Coffee House Crime or something, and they do true crime actually. And I've noticed two stories have popped up recently in the last couple of months anyway, that there's a surprising amount of models, unfortunately, on OnlyFans who turn into murderers. And one was, the only reason she got caught is because of ring cam footage and audio that was recorded. And another person, she snapped one day and killed her boyfriend, and just yikes. So long story short, if you're on social media, be careful, because you never know who's trying to do something.
And never meet up with somebody. This goes for in general, meeting up with people online, but very specifically, if you're an influencer or somebody with a social media presence, never meet up with somebody without somebody else with you.
Yes, and you do it in public.
If you're meeting for the first time, unless you're at a convention and you're already meeting in a public place with security, if you're meeting to do a collaboration or something, you should always have somebody with you. And if they say, who's that? You say, oh, that's my camera person or my driver. Always have a second person with you.
Yeah, like it's just good social media practice. And like I was talking about being catfished, if you are unfortunately an attractive person, be it male or female, it can go both ways and often does. You might be surprised who's trying to steal your photos and is defrauding people. One story that I'm personally aware of is someone had stolen a friend of mine's photographs, and that person was bilked out of, when I say over $5,000. So yeah, it's ugly. So we're going to end on a much more happier note. Well, not for this dad anyway. So once again, going to Boing Boing, a 6-year-old boy, quote, played with his dad's Grubhub app, ordering $1,000 worth of food. A Michigan man had just put his son to bed when Grubhub delivered a mysterious plate of jumbo shrimp to his house. And then one after another, Grubhub came a-knocking with a bag order of food. From salads, to sandwiches, the shawarma, to pizza, to chili cheese fries, and from various restaurants too. Until Keith Stonehouse had a feast fit for an army. Or a 6-year-old boy in this case. He soon figured out his son, who was looking for his dad's phone in bed, had seen the Grubhub app and decided to have some fun with it to the pricey tune of $1,000. The boy's mother, Kristen Stonehouse, told the Associated Press on Thursday that Grubhub reached out to the family and offered them a $1,000 gift card. The company is also considering using the family in an online promotion, she said. Grubhub official... sorry.
You know what they're going to do?
What?
It's going to be a thing where they have a baby ordering a whole bunch of stuff, and then it's going to be like they'll work comedy into it, not about the refund or anything, but they'll work something into it. It's like so much fun and easy, that even a baby can do it, sort of thing.
Yeah.
And then they'll have a warning saying, at the end,
please don't do this.
but it'll say something like, but it's probably best if you hold on to your phone.
Yeah. So Keith Stonehouse, who's the dad, said he was alone with his son while his wife was at the movies. Quote, "This is like something out of a Saturday Night Live skit," Keith Stonehouse told MLive.com. Keith Stonehouse said his son ordered food from so many different places that Chase Bank sent him a fraud alert after declining a $439 order from Happy's Pizza. But Mason's 180.
How can you order $400 American from a pizza place unless
hockey team, baseball team,
yeah, you're
brunch.
Right.
So, however, Mason's did make good on the 183 order of jumbo shrimp from the same restaurant went through and arrived at the family's house. And the story concludes by saying the Stonehouses said they shoved the order in their fridge and also called up neighbors over to help them eat it all up.
This reminds me of a story in the last few months where a dog ordered, we covered it. Didn't the dog order a bunch of games on PlayStation?
Or something weird.
It was a dog. It was chewing his controller and it ordered a whole bunch of stuff because he didn't have two-factor authorization for every pre-order set up. It was set up so that as long as he was logged into his master account, it could place the order.
Do you remember the baby that ordered a bunch of stuff on Amazon a couple of years ago?
Yeah. PlayStation was a little harder on it, but they ended up refunding it because it was all digital. They could refund it and take the games back, basically.
Yeah, like,
but like this is actually good on Grubhub because the restaurants shouldn't be out the money.
Yeah, exactly.
Because they made the food, and if anything, this is a teaching experiment for them where they can go. Yes, it should be easy to order food, but it shouldn't be so easy that if a child gets a hold of the phone that they can do this.
Anything over $100 placed within, say, 15 minutes, you should have, like, this is how
anything over $100 placed within a 3-hour period they should pop up saying, "Are you sure you want to do this? Please enter your PIN."
Yes, I think anything over $100 from a location within, I'm going to say 30 minutes, should require a however many PIN or one of those authenticator codes you get from like Amazon or whatever.
Or if you have it set up, your thumbprint.
Yeah, like there should be some sort of digital protection in place to stop this from happening.
Or if they don't want to do that for everybody, if you have a young child, they should have an option on the phone so that there's a parental control with the code if you have a kid.
Yeah.
Like a tamper-proof thing.
Yeah, because that's honestly just enabling it in your settings. It's not going to be intrusive. If you don't have a child, you never have to use it. But if you have a child, please enter ordering code and just make it simple. It should be no different than using parental controls on your Xbox or PlayStation or whatever.
Yeah. That's literally a weekend of coding. They could have that implemented. So I think they might, if they do reach out and do the commercial with them, it might be to advertise new parental controls on their thing.
Yeah, and honestly, it's really good that Grubhub gave them $1,000. Now that's not going to pay their credit card bill.
No, but they gave them $1,000 of in-store credit to use on there, and then they're just still going to have to deal with what it is. But this does mean that they were Grubhub users, and it'll balance out if they spread that $1,000 out over the course of the year,
mm-hmm.
or even more, depending on what their eating habits were.
Mm-hmm.
Then they just pay off the credit card. It basically evens out to nothing.
Yeah,
it evens out to what they would have paid.
Yeah. So, like I said, thank you, Grubhub, for doing this. I do think that's really good of you.
And good publicity on you.
Yeah, exactly. So that's going to do it for this edition of The Weird News. And Alex, I believe you're going to be taking a look at the newest SpongeBob game, correct?
That is correct.
Okay, cool. So we're going to take a listen to Alex's next game review here on ThisWeekInGeek.net. We're going to close out the show and tell you what is going to be coming up in the week ahead on the site, and then we'll close out the show. All right, guys, we'll be back, guys. We will be back right after this, guys, only on ThisWeekInGeek.net.
Time for a throwback to a bygone era when everybody was putting out action 3D platformers, and ones based on television shows and cartoons tended to be actually pretty good. And that brings us to SpongeBob SquarePants The Cosmic Shake. This is a spiritual, not even spiritual, it is a successor to the once quite popular games that came out in the GameCube PS2 era. and we received a review copy. Check out. This was just recently released, so we wanted to make sure that we played it to the end at least to get it going. But THQ Nordic sent out a review copy. We ended up playing it on PlayStation 4, but it was played through my PlayStation 5, so in, I guess, backwards compatibility mode. And the performance was pretty darn good. I didn't experience any slowdowns or hiccups or hitches or anything. It scaled to my screen, my 4K screen, just, pretty well. Lighting is pretty good. Shadows are good. It's not going to be like a stellar showcase of like graphics and next gen everything. It's just a solid throwback style platformer game. Lots of funny dialogue. Having the original voice actors is from the TV show is great. It's well put together. It's not like reinventing the wheel in any way. There is a ton of variety in the gameplay from each level. It's the right sort of sweet spot. It's not an overly long game, but it's not so short that you're like, oh man, am I getting my money's worth? You're getting right in that sweet spot of gameplay, which is nice to see that they sort of figured it out. They zoned in when they were developing it and went, hey, this is the exact spot we want to hit that we think players are going to like. The story, feels ripped from the television program, which is good. The graphics are a big step up from the previous games, so it's sort of the logical evolution of it. I don't know how it's going to perform on like the Nintendo Switch or something. I'm assuming it would scale pretty well, but playing it, on my PS4 or PS5 in this case, I had a pretty good experience with it. If you saw the trailers and you were like, hey, this looks pretty good, but I don't know if the trailer is going to necessarily be representative or translate how the game feels, the answer is yes, it does. It's the controls are not too floaty or anything. It controls quite well. There's like, it doesn't suffer from a lot of these middling tier games will suffer from something feeling not quite right with the controls. No, everything feels exactly as I would have expected. It is just a really good AA release of a platformer, and I think if you grew up watching the show and playing the games, you'll have a really good time with it. If you're familiar, I mean, who's not familiar with SpongeBob? But if you're familiar but didn't necessarily watch or didn't play those games, but you're a platforming fan, I think you'll like it. Kids can play it, adults can play it. It's a pretty solid release, and I think it might actually end up going under the radar as one of the better platformers released this year. It's one of the better platformers released in the last few years, for sure.
Welcome back to ThisWeekInGeek.net. Big thanks to Alex for taking a look at the latest SpongeBob game. We also took a look at Fire Emblem Engage, and we began the show with my review of Renegade Game Studios' Transformers the RPG. You can check these out from your favorite online retailers, though, most often than not, Amazon. But you can also pick these up in store as well. So, coming up on the site this week, we are going to be having a loose cannon on Action USA and American Rampage as we continue our look at American strange releases in the next little bit.
Strange 80s and 90s obscure action weirdness.
Yeah, you should have heard our McBain and King of New York episode recently. I know Alex and Aaron are going to be doing the year 2022 review in Star Trek. We'll be taking a look at that rather soon. These boys are just getting ready to record that this week. We're also going to be recording another loose cannon about the Snake Eater trilogy of movies.
Here's a quick preview.
Yes.
Aaron watched with his wife Darlene, and I think I traumatized her by making her watch that with him.
Oh boy. I know me and Ken are getting together to record another loose cannon, sort of a follow-up to our romance anime that we did during last summer that I really enjoyed doing. So because Valentine's Day is coming up next week, so hopefully you'll be able to take a listen to that. I'm going to record that with him on Thursday. Let's see what else is coming up on the site this week.
Well, we've got, as always, there's going to be a handful over the next several weeks. Well, handful I'm going to be editing worth of Earth versus Soups. I've actually got about 100.
Oh my God.
to go through because Aaron and Darlene are machines.
Yeah.
So we release them once a week, and then when we go on hiatus, we release 2 a week.
Yeah.
That's generally how it is. But Thursdays is their slot. I said, hey, this is your slot. You will always have Thursdays if you want, and as long as you keep giving us content. And I'll wake up on a Tuesday and they're like, here's the next 3 or 4 episodes, and I'm like, you watched 4? And then like 3 or 4 days later, they're like, here's another one. And I'm like, oh my god,
yeah, like Jesus, guys, go outside.
So I mean, they're not hard to edit or anything, but there is a lot. So I usually edit them in batches of a month or 2 at a time.
Yeah.
So I'm not sure the exact order of what we're putting up, but we'll expect that on Thursdays, or somewhere between 7 and 8 in the morning is generally when they pop up online.
Yeah.
I'm still doing a bunch of live streaming stuff. We had a few people show up on my birthday stream, had a couple people come in and follow me there on Twitch. That's fun. Got the hang of it now. I think I've got my transitions working, and I've got some audio tools like a compressor for the microphone to keep it at a steady level, noise suppression algorithm on. Some fancy AI stuff that way. It's getting kind of fun. As we alluded to, we played that Shakespearean game. I'm going to be playing a little bit of that today and tomorrow probably to finish it up, and then either jumping into Final Fantasy VI Pixel Remaster or maybe something that I've got for review. I'll have to check out and see, because now that I've got the hang of it, if we get games, and this is what happens when you get games for review, sometimes, not all of them, but sometimes in the review guidelines, they'll be like, hey, your review can't come out till X amount of time, or we would like you to hold your reviews till this point. And that's a standard thing. But sometimes they'll say, but if you're streaming, you can stream the first 2 chapters of the game. And it'll be like, what? And we just never did that before. That was not something that we did, but we could actually do that with game. We could actually start putting out game previews.
Yeah.
So that'll be fun. Like, if there's an RPG coming out that maybe doesn't even have a public demo yet, sometimes it'll say, you can stream up to this chapter and release it maybe even 3 or 4 days before the regular review can come out. So that's fun, entering into, new territory for us. And eventually, if it starts to clutter up the YouTube stream too much, we'll probably have a second channel dedicated just to live stream, video on demand episodes, things that we already pre-recorded or things that we broadcast on Twitch that, because Twitch only holds them for 14 days. Whereas YouTube's forever, so we can always put them up there. So that's sort of what I've been doing on the back end, and what's coming up is there'll be 2 or 3 games this week that I'll probably be testing out, and then we're going to work on figuring out what an actual good schedule will be, that I can have a steady schedule, like maybe Monday, Wednesday, Friday we do different games. That'll be fun. So, and it'll be somewhere between the realm of 2 to 3 hours each time.
Mm-hmm.
And then I will tell you this right now, and I've been mentioning it before. When Final Fantasy 16 comes out, it's a marathon stream. We go till my body falls apart. So if I sleep well enough beforehand, and I got like 2 liters of 0-calorie Gatorade next to me, and maybe, I don't know, protein bar or something, we can start at 12:01 a.m. and we go till you hear me snoring, which could be like, I don't know, 36 hours later.
Good time.
No, if anything, it'll be like starts at 12:01 a.m. and we might go till, I don't know. Actually, no, there's a hard limit. I think you can only upload 12 hours to YouTube, so we'd have to stop somewhere around the 10 a.m. or 11 a.m. at least take a break, and then we can come back to it.
Mm-hmm. So yeah, trying to think of what else coming up for me on the site this week. Like I said, I know I'm going to be doing the loose cannon with Ken and Alex and Aaron. I know for Future Imperfect, we're talking about pitching or reviewing older sci-fi or older TV shows that we haven't necessarily talked about before on the show.
Yeah, that sounds cool. And also, we've got to figure out, we're going to do a prototype. We have to have a new prototype for the year, right? So
yeah, kind of what we're looking forward to this year.
Yeah, that'll be good. And have you got any new games that you're going to be playing just for fun? Even
honestly, right now I'm not really playing. I'm playing through Dragon Ball Z Kakarot's new Bardock DLC, which I don't know, for some reason my comfort game. I always come back to Dragon Ball Xenoverse 2 because the Hero of Justice Pack 2 is dropping really soon with like Orange Piccolo and Cell Max. So I've got that. I really need to play Dead Space, which my wife got me for Valentine's Day. So
Isn't there another one from the fall that you haven't gotten to yet?
Gotham Knights, I never got around to.
Oh yeah. That's a fill in the blank when you need to sort of game, because by the time you get to it, any glitches will probably be patched out.
Yeah, and I'm waiting for a price drop on Final Fantasy VII Crisis Core. So I'm hoping that'll happen during end of quarter sale, which always seems to happen around March. So
you see, this is one of those situations where I got the physical disc, I could give it to you, but you didn't get you only have the digital PlayStation.
Yeah, so I'm kind of hoping one will pop up.
So either it drops in price, Mike, or if they do announce a disc, a USB disc for it, then you can get that, and I'll just give you my disc to use.
Yeah, exactly. So hopefully I'll get around to playing that. Other than that, I'm kind of just reviewing and playing with a lot of Transformers recently. I've got a really good relationship going on with like Hasbro right now. So over the next few weeks, you're going to be hearing a lot of Transformers reviews from me. I bought these on my own. I got the D&D Transformers. They're D20s that transform into different D&D monsters. So I got the Owl Bear and I got the Beholder. I'm looking into getting, I think it's the Red Dragon. And I think there's something else. They're actually pretty neat little things. You couldn't use them as a true D20, but they are really cool. I'm actually really surprised with the engineering on them.
But that's still really neat.
Yeah, it's really neat.
I just realized we didn't talk about my birthday.
Oh, yeah, you kind of did. You said it's postponed.
But we didn't talk about what I got.
What did you get? What'd you get?
Well, I got something special from you.
Oh, yes, you did.
Yes, I got a cameo from our little favorite dude. Did we talk about how I got a cameo last year from him too?
I think so, but I think I put it at the beginning of the episode.
Oh, you did? Yeah. So you got me another Ricky Berwick birthday wish. It's like apparently we're going on a date inside his mouth.
Yes, because you're going to have a romantic dinner of chalky milk and chicken nuggies.
Yes, exactly. I just find it funny too that you get a cameo from a guy that lives about 10 minutes away from me.
That's why I'm really hoping eventually he'll like reach out, and be like, "Who is this Alex guy?" So,
that's the thing. I went to the Beat Goes On, or like the music store that I also get my games and stuff from, and he was out there filming a Christmas video like 7 years ago, and he was wrapped up in Christmas lights and spinning around. I'm a Christmas tree, and I'm like, oh, it's Ricky. And then it's like you're getting cameos from him for me.
It will be our annual tradition.
And then I got a nice gift card from you for the PlayStation Store, which I am torn. It is either going to go towards getting my PlayStation Plus renewed for the higher tier, or as soon as Final Fantasy VII Remake Part 2 gets announced with a date, that shit's going right on there. Because like there are smaller titles I could get that I'd like to play, so I can keep it on there, some money on there just in case. But if that gets announced like in the next month or two with like an actual pre-order on their date, that's what's happening. That's what's happening, son. It's going right on there. And then from my mom, I haven't gotten it. There's a couple of physical items she says she has for me, but she sent over a little birthday money because, again, COVID, right? So she couldn't do much. My dad, a little bit of cash. Basically, this is the Alex needs money because it's after Christmas and he wants to be able to to actually have cash again. So I got that. My dad made a really nice dinner. Then my grandma sent me a nice card. My grandma in Toronto sent me a card that was a Trash Panda card.
That's funny.
It literally it says a Trash Panda on there, and it was basically like, watch out for the trash pandas or they're going to eat your cake. And she thought it was hilarious. So my grandma's like 84 or 85. So I thought that was funny. And she's the classic grandma where as a kid, every single birthday until I was 18 was a crisp $20 bill. And I'm not afraid. I'm not spoiling anything or she's not going to listen to this, but it's funny because when I turned 18, the card had a little note in there and said, "Welcome to the adult amount," and it was $30.
Ooh.
And it has been $30 every single year, including this year. And it is amazing because, like, literally, Grandma Richie is clockwork. It's like, okay, I'm getting $30 from Grandma. Like, that's it. That's what you're getting. Christmas, she always does something nice. Like, she's one of those people that goes to like the Bay and will get you like a nice little sweater or something like that. But like birthdays, she's got so many family members, they all get the same thing. And then from my brother and my sister-in-law, I got that video card, which was a surprise, but they got that on sale. He's like, this is birthday, but it's also investment in your streaming career. So I was like, cool. But they also gave me a few small items from when they went to the States. I think I showed you, Mike, there's a grab bag that was from Target, and it's just like $10, and it says it's got $30 worth of stuff in there. But it's like things that they couldn't sell, right? So there was a couple of like Marvel playing cards from Age of Ultron.
Oh God.
And then a Bartman stuffed animal.
Mm-hmm.
And I'm like, okay, that's cool. Then he gave me a 2.5 gigabit USB adapter.
Ooh.
And I was like, oh, he goes, that way when you eventually get faster internet, you'll have at least one device that can connect using the faster internet. And I'm like, oh, that's cool. And I'm like, it was like used and open. I said, where'd you get this? And he goes, I think I got it from work, but it doesn't have an asset tag. And then I checked at work, and and they said, oh, you bought that from us. And I'm like, oh. So he goes, so I had something I bought that I didn't know I had, so you get it.
All right.
So that's always good. What else? It was a little thing, that
Tigertron from Transformers
yes.
Kingdom.
Yes, and that he got that. I forget where he bought it, but I think he got it I think it was when he was down in the States, and it said made in Vietnam all over it. And apparently it's a rare one or something.
I'm not 100% sure. I mean, if you want me to do a little bit of digging into it, I could.
Like our friend Matt is really into that stuff, and he's like, oh yeah, that one, like eBay sold listings for that one is like a lot more than what it was for retail, because it's Vietnam. It's not a knockoff. It's actually made by Hasbro, but in Vietnam, which is different than getting it made in China, I'm assuming.
So yeah, certain package variants can differ depending. Like I know, for example, just to give you a really simple one, when it comes to the Star Wars community, for example, most people want the English back card that might have Spanish on it. So basically US card back. However, if you get it from Canada, you will get French, English, and French, and those are less valuable, but it's easier to get, harder to get figures on those card backs.
This, as far as I can tell on the box, it has English and Vietnamese.
Yeah, so you might have got a first print run Tigertron from Transformers Kingdom, which was tied into the Netflix series, which I think he was a last year's toy release. I want to say I just got a Tigertron myself. So
it said 2021 on it.
Yeah, so he's from the most recent series, and it's a really good figure. It's a slight retail of the Cheetor figure that came out the year before, I want to say. But it's a really solid figure if you ever decide to open it.
Yeah, I'm going to keep it on the shelf for now because I think it's cool. It's just in general. And he's like, yeah, he goes, I know you're not a big collector. He goes, I saw this. And then I was like, Vietnamese. And he goes, okay, I'll buy it. Like he got it from, somebody who had no idea if it was worth anything when he was just down there, doing a shopping trip. Mm-hmm. And the other thing that he got me, and this is because did I mention this on the air when we had our Spotify end of year, like, stats, that I ended up being in the top 0.1% of all NSYNC listeners in the world last year.
Oh God.
Because I fell asleep a few nights listening to the dance hall extended cuts of a couple songs from their first album because they were Eurodance versions that blended well with the other music I was listening to. And I had listened to them over like 200 or 300 times in the course of a year. So literally I'm in the top 0.1% percentile. That's like top 100 people in the entire world listening to them, if not less, like maybe top 5. Mm-hmm. And so I was so embarrassed, like it's my secret shame that's what popped up as my most listened to band. So what does he give me? An audio cassette from their first album.
That is somehow appropriate. I love it.
It is. And I'm like, but it doesn't have the extended dance hall stuff. He says, well, that's harder to find. So that was just fun little gifts that I got for my birthday there.
Good stuff. All right, guys. So that's going to do it for us here on ThisWeekInGeek.net. Once again, we do appreciate you listening over the past 16 years. We didn't do anything for our anniversary because Alex said we were sick, work schedules, and you know what? We're always going to be here.
it's the anniversary. The anniversary, the big one will be when we hit 20.
Yeah, I mean, honestly, Twig is old enough to drive now.
Yeah, Twig. When we're old enough to drink, we'll talk, and then at 20 we'll have a big celebration like we did when we did the 10th. But what we can say is that we do want to do some quick refreshes in the year. We'll probably have some new audio stingers. We'll probably have some new opening and closer segments. I do want to do a bit of a refresh on the website, make it a little more modern. We'll do some stuff because it's hard to believe it's been 3 years since we had new audio segments and new website stuff done.
Yeah,
like it's like we were so focused on the COVID years that we didn't even realize it's been 3 years already.
Yeah, so I may get some music composed during the summer. I know one of my big projects when we take our summer hiatus for the month of July, I'm going to build some new audio elements. So I might be on the lookout for a new voice to do kind of our intro and extra segments. I'll be on the lookout for that. So look for that by the summertime. So anyway,
so that'll be our celebration for the year.
Exactly. Just paying out more money to make it work. But hey, we do it for you guys and for ourselves too.
Well, and nobody wants to. It's fun. We got our music. Like we're keeping our podcast dance theme.
Oh yeah.
And again, even if we were to commission a new one, that's staying forever. Just like we have a hard copy of the original Twig theme that I use for all of our Turtle Treasure episodes, and anytime we do a special, random special episode, because I mean, hey, it's our music, right? So we may as well have it, because you never know. We might get to a point where we have so many of our own songs that we could remix them together even.
Oh God, wouldn't that be a thing? So anyway, guys, we are gonna
This Week in Wubba Lubba Dub Dub.
All right, guys, so we're gonna take here off on ThisWeekInGeek.net. So for This Week in Geek, we have been
Alex, the producer.
I've been Mike the Birdman, saying be excellent to each other. We'll catch you guys again next week right here on ThisWeekInGeek.net.
At no point in your rambling, incoherent response were you even close to anything that could be considered a rational thought.
Thanks for listening to this episode of This Week in Geek. Hungry for more? Check out our website at ThisWeekInGeek.net. You can subscribe to the podcast, browse our Twitter and Instagram, and leave your thoughts on today's topics. If you'd like to give us some feedback, send us an email at feedback@thisweekingeek.net. Tune in next time, and remember,
lower your shields and surrender your listenership.
We would be honored if you would join us.
Thank you for your cooperation. Good night.